Okay. Let's turn this thing on. Hey, folks. My bad. I didn't mean to be 2 minutes late. I'll give y'all a second to log in. Can you guys hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can we hear me? Let's make sure my sound is cranking right. Happy Thursday. For those of you already in Europe, happy Friday. All right, here we go. Here we go. All right. What up, James? Oh, good. You guys hear me? I hate that this thing is so late. It is never with me. Like, I'll be talking about something and then the comments come like 40 seconds later and I done already changed my thought process into something else. By the way, look, we have moved up. Peace and greetings, YouTubers. Shout out. This is actually Jason, one of our longtime subscribers. He actually made this shirt and actually a few other ones. I shouted him out before in the shout out series. He has the business, my superhero tees, and his wife has another business. I think, God, is my perfect bride. Jason, I know you're on here probably. Just throw it in the chat for me. Let me go right by Jason. I don't want to just put anything out here. Let's see. I think it's my brown. Let's see. Hold on. Give me 1 second. I want to get it right. I don't want to be messing up nobody's shout out here. My superhero tees is the one I believe it's called. Yep. So my superhero tees is the actual company, and then I Am Perfect Brown. That's the one. So that's the wife's business. Now I shouted these out a few years back, but yeah. So he definitely made me one. I'm not selling them, but you can definitely reach out to him and buy them from him. All the profits and stuff will go to him. It's not coming to me. So if y'all interested in that, you can reach out to Jason. I'm sure he'll be in the chat at some point so he can drop his content. But his IG handle is definitely My Superhero Tees. Man, I'm so tired, guys. It's spring break with them kids, so my hours changed and I got them all day. Prayers to you teachers. I don't know how y'all do it sometimes. There we go. Oh, I'm sorry. The daughter, not the wife. Sorry, Jason. It's him and the daughter's company. All right, keeping it in the family. I am out of breath. I don't know why I'm out of breath. I ain't do nothing but walk over here. Also, guys, those in the South, be careful. I see the weather is horrible right now. I saw that, especially like in the Southeast region. So like the Carolinas, parts of Florida, Mississippi, Louisiana, Alabama, Georgia. Y'all have been getting some terrible weather with them storms and everything. So y'all make sure y'all are careful out there. You know, by the way, I ain't get to shave, so I'm looking a little scruff McGruffish today, but it's fine. It is what it is. We will jump into our subject matter in exactly a minute and a half. I'm just giving people a minute to get on here. Let me get in my hellos. I feel like I'm low today. Let me lower this a little bit. All right. That looks better. Okay. Let's see. Where are we at? So what up, Latoya, D. Bradford, Tyler Heckner, Jersey Candy. Well, I talk about the 6 million. Oh, that's that Black Lives Matter. That's why I told you I don't be a part of nothing. I just be minding my business. Let's see where we at. Thank you, Andrea Jones, Glam Gal, Black Women Read, James Hudson, Melody Nia, Laura Lomax. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and start in a second, guys. Just so you jump right into it. James Hudson says he's been on my channel since day one. So look, that means you've been here for at least 10 years. I forgot when I initially started doing actual. The channel says 2005, but I wasn't making videos in 05. I just had the channel for like other stuff. And I think 2010 or 2011 is when I started actually making videos. And then maybe 2017 is when I started actually taking the channel seriously. Okay, that's hot. I ain't about to burn my mouth on this. All right. All right, are we ready? Let's go ahead and jump right into it. I want to start, of course, we're going to jump right into the Supreme Court and knock that on out so I can get into some other things. So as you know, today they finally confirmed another Supreme Court justice. So we have Ketanji Brown Jackson, and it was a vote of 53-47. You know, what was interesting in all of that to me, and I'll say this, I do hope that with her being in that position, she does right by the people. Like I said, it's hard for me to really rally behind and get excited about people in power because I don't really look at them as I don't look at them through the lens of being a fan or like I don't look at them as celebrities or the saviors to anything. I kind of just have an expectation for what I would hope they would do. But with that being said, I'm not gonna lie, it was very frustrating to sit through the confirmation hearings and just see the nonsense she had to deal with. Like I think I said on the last live, she wasn't specifically the candidate I initially thought they were going to put on it. There was some other people I saw, but she's all right with me. For the most part, there's a few things where I was like, okay, and that's in regards to some judgments she's made. But I understand that in law, there's going to be decisions that are made that are very tough. But the issue for me was having to sit through those confirmation hearings and just when you have people like Ted Cruz and Lindsey Graham and even like Marsha Blackburn just doing the most just to do the most because again they want to kind of maintain that status quo, and by her coming into that space and having that element of power, it kind of it ignites that white fear that exists. It ignites that fear of, oh my goodness, she's going to come in here and seam rip everything that we have built for ourselves and she's going to ruin it and give it to the blacks. That's kind of like the energy they had. And what was so interesting is like when you look at her record, she's like the most qualified person up there, not even just out of the new justices, but literally every single justice that's sitting up there. Like her credentials are there and then some. And it goes back to the conversations we've always had in regards to those in the Black collective where we're always taught to, we have to be 2 and 3 and 4 times, work 4 times as hard just to be considered half as good, half as qualified. And even when the credentials are there and the accolades are there and the checkpoints have been marked, somebody still got a problem with your existence. And so I was like, good for her. And can I tell you also, well, it's so interesting, again, when we talk about the qualifications, with her going through this process, you would have thought she stepped on a baby's head the way they were trying to really grill her and just grasp for straws because, they're struggling to find something. But then when you look at Amy, like Amy literally hop, skipped, and jumped in there. And this is a woman, and I'm talking about Amy Barrett, that was the last person that was appointed. Like Amy, one, has never even like tried a case all the way to verdict, let alone served as a judge for any appellate court until 2017. Trump pretty much threw her and rushed her in there real quick. And so she literally had 3 years of some experience, and hey, she's on the Supreme Court. And so you have people who have been practicing law for decades and doing all kinds of things. They're serving as, whatever they've been serving as, and they're not even up for consideration. So Amy gets to hop, skip, and jump in there with her mediocrity. And then here comes Miss Jackson, and now they want to roll out, all the works. We're going to really make sure that she's qualified. And, they were pissed when she got in there. You saw people walking out and stuff and just seething. I'm like, y'all are off the chain. And I just think it's so interesting. Thank you, Gray. It's just so interesting because, again, when it comes to Black folks, and mind you, please don't fight me on this, but I've always been saying this. When it comes to American politics and the Black people that they put into these positions, there's always going to still be a certain type of Black person they're going to put there. They're never going to put somebody up there that's going to like super, super shake the table. That's why I don't know why a lot of these like white conservatives are so terrified of some of these people being up there, because a lot of times some of these people who are put in these positions, they'll abide by what the people want, but they're very safe. They're safe people that they're not going to really go above and beyond to push towards anything that's going to really better like the Black collective solely. They're never going to do that. So a lot of the times when you see the people that are pushed there, kind of where they stand. And so that's why I was like, I don't know why they're giving this woman such a freaking hard time. Get off of her back, please. But no, like when it came to qualifications, I'm like, when you just look at her track record, I mean, it's not even close. So I was like, why are y'all out here doing the most? It reminds me, and honestly, the other thing about it too is I think it highlights the fact that, how do I want to say it? I'll say the pendulum has been shifting towards a direction where you're starting to see a lot more extremism coming from like white nationalist views, where again, there's that fear of anytime somebody Black comes in, and not even if they're just Black, but if they're anything other than like a white male conservative that's straight, automatically it's like the end of the world if anybody else comes into any element of power or gain. And so you're starting to see that come into play. And so when you watched the amounts of reaching that went there, and the other thing is, they recognize that, somebody like Miss Jackson is burdened with the element of poise. And I hate this argument. I've said this a million times. Like, we know that as Black folks, we're burdened with the element of poise in all circumstances and pretty much situations. That I'll tie that to Will Smith later on. But like, when it comes to all of the police brutality, killings, and everything else like that, we're automatically burdened with the element of poise. They don't want you to go out in the streets and kick stuff over. They want you to go on the media trail if you're the family and say you forgive the killer and you want peace and let's have love. Or, when you saw the Charleston 9 take place, and then they got all the victims' family members propped up there and I forgive you, in like literally 24 hours after the whole thing took place. We're always burdened with the element of poise. And it's not even just in those moments, but even at work. We're not allowed to have too much aggression. As men, we can't have too much aggression, especially if you're working with white women. For the black women, y'all just can't have any feelings at all. You're being a little emotional. You're a little antsy today, a little anxious, a little sassy and standoffish. You're kind of, they got all these different rules for us. You go to a restaurant, there's a certain way you got to carry yourself. And even if your server sucks, sometimes black folks be like, damn, I should probably still tip because I don't want nobody saying black folks don't tip, And then again, even with politics, anytime somebody has an opportunity to really gain some leverage and footing in a political campaign to the point where they could possibly win, they have to almost sell themselves out to be acceptable enough to keep other people comfortable. And so when we talk about that conversation of poise, really it's centered in the idea of ensuring that white people are so comfortable with your existence. And so that's why when people kept commending her for being poised and stuff, I'm like, yeah, I guess. But when we gonna get out of the era of being poised? Because at this point, F all that. Like, how long do people want to stay playing this game where there's a set of standards and rules that have been created for us to abide by, but they only indirectly affect us from a negative standpoint, and we continue to play in that same game? Honestly, I think if a lot more of us just pretty much said how we honestly felt in the same way that everybody else can, I think things would start to shift around. But we always play the respectability role, and it kind of drives me crazy. That's why I said what I said in that Will Smith video. And I know a lot of y'all hated that video. Folks were letting me have it. I was like, let me not even read the comments on that nonsense. But I'll come back to Will in a second. But again, so when we talk about this conversation of poise and respectability, and, we have to appeal and showcase that we're human and emotional creatures that are safe and soft when we're disappointed or when we're angry or when we're let down. We can't let the rage show. We can't show our strength. We can't show anything. We have to, walk on eggshells to assure that everybody's comfortable. Like, it just goes to show that not much has changed. And then again, people know that we're burdened with that, so they play that game. That's why Lindsey Graham and Ted Cruz and Marsha Blackburn could do the stupid Olympics all day during the confirmation hearings, because they know Miss Jackson was not about to pop off and tell them where they could go and how they could get there, And so, because again, they recognize how that system works, so they're playing into it. And so, I just was like, man, and what it reminded me of again, because you recognize when you talk about the qualifications she has in comparison to the others, she was probably the most qualified person in that room to do anything. And so you have all these people who are haters trying to chip down and do whatever else. I'm looking at Cruz, she and Cruz are classmates and everything. And then again, I know people start gassing up Ivy League this and Ivy League that. But a lot of times, especially white folks, if they start talking Ivy League, I'm like, okay, well, were you legacy? Because like 40% of y'all are legacy students. Didn't matter what you did. Somebody else in the family was already there, so you got in. Or how much did your family donate to the university? What building is named after you? And I'm talking specifically for those that are like super wealthy in that realm. Because again, Bush went to Yale. He was a C student and got into Yale. And imagine that. And this is not to say that grades dictate somebody's intelligence, but it just highlights that, when we talk about what people like to gas up or size up in regards to what is deemed as elite and the standard, it's Ivy League, it's this, it's that. And then a lot of the times the people who benefit from being in those spaces aren't even qualified to be in those spaces in reality. It's kind of like, what was it, Abby? That sued the Texas University or the University of Texas because she didn't get in, and she thought it was because of affirmative action. And she figured that, all these non-qualified black and brown people are in my seat. And so I'm going to sue, and I'm going to take this all the way to the Supreme Court. And because I did not get into the school that I wanted to get into, I'm willing to go to the Supreme Court and tear down a system that helps to ensure that everybody has somewhat of an equal opportunity, when in reality, the system that I'm trying to tear down is the system that most benefits me as a white woman, because we know that affirmative action benefits white women more than anybody. And she was willing to let everybody else's experience go by the wayside so she could get into the school of her choice, just for it to come out that she didn't have the credentials to get into the school to begin with. Like, the games people play, hot mess. But again, it's funny when people know that you're talented or you're skilled or you have all these qualifications and they don't have those same skills. They do everything in their power to ensure that they still have one up on you, especially if they're already in a position of power, because they're threatened by the existence of somebody else in their same space. This is almost totally unrelated, but it reminds me of this time back in the day when I was still a teenager, this is back when I still used to actually like dance with the different, dance teams and stuff. I used to be on this dance troupe when I was like 16 or 17. I didn't tell this story in the podcast. I should have put it in that desert episode, but I didn't tell this story. But so I was a part of this dance troupe, right? I was like 16. It was me and maybe 8 or 9 other people. And then it was kind of a mixed troupe with a bunch of different things. So we danced. There were people that could play instruments. There were people that could tap dance, people that could sing. So it was kind of like one of those universal groups that do everything. But for this specific time, we were working as a dance team. And we got invited to this kind of community dance explosion extravaganza event, right? And so, mind you, we're like the only Black people in this thing because this is in Lacey, Washington. All right. Lacey, Washington is this nice, quiet little city right outside of the state capital by Olympia. All right. So there's not a whole lot out there. Lots of trees. It's not too far from the military base. So anyway, what was supposed to happen was they were going to have these different showcases. Some of the teams that were going to perform, and then they were going to do one big piece with all the teams together. And, that would be the grand finale. Now, the issue was, now mind you, this is like 2004, 2005. Technology is not what it is. YouTube is not here yet. So we literally got our instructions from an email and somebody mailed us a tape of the routine we were supposed to do. And so we're watching this routine, right? And this is the routine that's being put together by the hosts of the event. And they're supposed to be the premier team. Now, these are like some mediocre farm kids. The routine is trash, but we've learned it because we for the finale we got to all do this thing. So anyway, we get to the venue the day of, right? And this is the sound checks and the rehearsals and everything, and all the different dance teams. They gave us all, I think, 3 minutes to run and practice ASAP. Now, mind you, our routine was 4 minutes, but we only had 3 minutes to practice. And so we go up there, we run our routine, all right? And of course, our routine is like super, 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 super dope. And the organizer sees our routine. And now she realizes that our stuff is better than the people that are hosting it. So out of nowhere, she has a vendetta against us the rest of the night. And so we're doing our sound check. We're dancing. And next thing you know, the music turns off. That's time. That is time. Time is up. Next team, let's go. Okay, all right. Okay, cool, lady. So then fast forward, all the teams do their sound checks. And we've had a chance to kind of see all the different groups that have gone. And I'm not trying to be cocky, but they weren't good. Okay, it was us and then it was them. And again, we're the only Black team here. And it's not saying white folks can't dance, but these specific groups were just not that great. They were cool, but it was kind of like, and this is not a diss, but it's like if you were to put Sierra and Janet and Tinashe and Normani and who else dances? Maya in a room, and then here comes Britney Spears at the same time. Britney can entertain and she can do the hairology and throw the hair, but when you put the rest of them in a room with her, she's not seeing any of them on the stage as far as what she's doing. But literally, that's what it kind of felt like. And so we have to do this piece where we all are going over, the big piece with everybody together. Now, again, they gave us no real instructions. They just gave us that raggedy VHS tape they mailed us, and we had an email with the directions. So, of course, when we run it, and mind you, what was crazy, so this song is a rock song, right? It's a rock song. We like, okay, that's different. We can do it cool. We'll do it cool. And so we're running this, right? And so the thing was, there's all these different cues and things you got to pay attention to because this teammate's coming here and you're coming here and everything, because they had formations and stuff in the email as well. But again, if you haven't run it yet, and this is the first time you're running it, of course you're going to run into some issues. So the lady that was in charge, again, she's feeling some kind of way because we didn't embarrass everybody with our solo routines. And now she has to make it look like her group is still the premier group here. This group here, you guys are missing the cues. I don't know what's going on, but this is unacceptable. Showtime is in 4 hours, and you guys need to get it together because when you guys get out there, there's going to be 2,000 or 3,000 people, and and this. We're just sitting here looking like, all right, clearly, when we run this little stupid routine 2 or 3 more times, we're clearly going to eat this thing alive. We just needed to get the formations together. And so anyway, we get our stuff together. Showtime comes, and it was so funny. They were shady. They made us go first because they figured nobody would be there yet. And again, they're the headliners. They're going to close it out. We went and did our little set. Kill it. Eat it. Crowd is just eating out of our hands, literally. And then you have to sit through all these other groups. These other groups all go, and they're not good. Crowd is semi-quiet. I'm in like the little section where they had the dancers sitting. I'm just cheesing like, because this is at the time when I thought I was Michael Jackson. You couldn't tell. You couldn't tell me nothing at that time. So I'm in there just tickled. And the lady that's in charge is just like sour face, just pissed because she's like, who the hell invited these mother? Like, because it was kind of like, I guess in the town of Lacey, this must have been like the what's some of them teams off America's Best Dance? The Jabberwockies or Fanny Pack. That they were the Fanny Pack of Lacey, Washington. But they forgot there were going to be groups from Tacoma and everywhere else. And so it was just the funniest thing because by the time you got through the show, it was like the people who literally opened the show were the highlight, and then the actual headliner sucked. And then when we actually did the final piece at the end where everybody came in, that's when the crowd finally got energized because it was all the dance teams together. And of course, the people in my crew just dancing circles around the people next to us. And if you've ever seen like dancers next to each other and one is just chewing out the other, it's never a good optic. It was just entertaining. But anyway, that almost has nothing to do with the judge, but it just gave me a whole flashback because that lady was pressed about us. And it was so crazy because you would have thought she came in there like she was freaking Rosie Perez or something trying to regulate. Like all of a sudden you wanted the Nicholas brothers or something trying to regulate. Knowing good and well we'll dance circles around everybody in there. And it killed her. And their music sucked. The band was not good, the rock band, because it was a live rock band. They were missing like the sound. It was all a mess. But, you know, we got through it. But it was the most interesting thing. I'm just like, and it didn't have to be that. You know, we could all came in there with some good energy and we could have collabed and made, I wanted to make some suggestions so bad about what we could have possibly changed with the final piece, but it wasn't my place. But anyway, let me pause for a second before I get to Amir Locke. I decided I was going to cover the heavy topics first and then we'll end on a lighter note. Sorry, that was a long story. I don't know why I told that, but it is what it is. All right. Sam J said, please, no more Will Smith. Yeah, this is my last time talking about it, but we won't spend too much time on him. Good job, Serenity. That's true. And you can't be overwhelmed even when you're sick. That's in response to the conversation of always having to be poised. You know, you like, it's kind of like Serena Williams. I just saw the article where she was saying, you know, because she had the postpartum preeclampsia, which it kind of affects like your blood pressure and everything after you give birth, and how she kept talking about, you know, while she was going through her complications with the childbirth, she kept telling the nurse, something's not right, something's not right. But again, they think, well, you're Serena Williams, you should be able to handle it. And, you know, it's all in your head and you're doing the most. And then, you know, she had all these blood clots. You know, it's just, yep. Look, black men, we have to have poise and everything. Black women, our children, those in the different communities that identify as different genders and everything else like that. Doesn't matter what element of the collective you're in, there's an element of poise that's expected upon us, or otherwise the hammer's thrown at us. No ifs, ands, or buts. I'm gonna keep it moving. Exactly. Abe said there's still a conservative majority on the court. No one in that position can bring about change. That's the other thing. The court is still 6-3. So unless I'm evil, but look, they said Clarence Thomas was sick. I was like, I'm sorry, but like, oh God, I'll get to him too. But yeah, it's still a 6-3 Supreme Court, and I don't see it shifting. It by 2024, maybe it might be 5-4, but I don't see it going to an even split or them adding someone else. Joe's moving too slow on that, and we don't know what's happening in the midterms. Let's keep it moving. I'm almost to the bottom. If I skip your comment, please don't take it personally. I just want to keep going with the topics. But I will say this, anytime I do a live, I do eventually go back and watch the replay and read all of the chats just to kind of see where everybody's at. So it kind of gives me content for later. So I do actually see your comments. Oh, Carrie D. Singleton, you done got to a point that I'm about to make later on. While I applaud her appointment and historic context behind it, I've learned that a person's melanin doesn't ensure change in this nation. Short list: Clarence Thomas, Kamala Harris, Ben Carson. Oh, wait, that's on page. Hold on. Oh, it's on page 2. Don't worry, I'm getting to it. But yes, I totally agree. And we've talked about that. Black faces in high spaces and places. Be wary of. Everybody is not for the collective at all. And a lot of times they put people up there to play a role that's been assigned to them so they can kind of keep people quiet and say, well, we did put somebody up there. What's the problem? Y'all should be grateful. Be thankful. All right, we're going to keep going. We're going to keep going. Let's see. Somebody said Britney will absolutely give a spin in the hair flip. And look, I ain't mad at Britney. I rocked with Britney as a kid. What she does works for the kind of music she makes, but she, to me, has never been someone that has like a special kind of flavor with her performance style, especially after she had that random knee injury and then she just never really danced the same again. And, you know, there's just a certain flavor that's there. It's even kind of like Justin Bieber as a pop star dances, but I never thought he was that great of a dancer. He's cool, but there's something that's just not there, and it is what it is. It's not a dig, but you know, you can just kind of sometimes tell who's just rooted in something. Sometimes you either got the oil or you don't. There's skilled and there's trained, and then there's raw talent. Anyway, let's see, we're gonna keep going. Somebody said, oh, she was mad, man. Oh, that woman was seething. And you know what made it funny too? She had like a baby with her. She had like this big child that might have been like, I don't know, 8 months. So she's just holding this baby the whole time. And the other thing you all need to know, and I'm just sitting here looking like, all right, lady, poor little baby head, just like waggling while she's like, poor thing. Off topic, are you gonna see the MJ musical? I don't know. Is it traveling? If it's in New York, I don't plan on being in New York for a while. I think I'm going to New York in June for some like my kind of like music related stuff, but not sure yet. All right, anyway, I want to keep moving. Okay, this is a little bit heavier, but we'll keep it moving. We'll be good. I'll try to keep it as polished as possible so we don't get too emotional in here. I did want to talk about Amir Locke. Now, we've talked about his case before. Amir Locke is the individual that was shot and killed by police when there was a no-knock raid, and this is in Minneapolis. Yes, the same Minneapolis as George Floyd. And I want to say Dante Wright as well, but there was a no-knock raid. They kicked the door in. He gets up. He has a gun in his hand, and they shoot and kill him. And their justification was he had a gun, and he aimed it at the police. And my response to that was I still think that's nonsense because, one, when we talk about the dynamics of a no-knock raid, if you put yourself in the shoes of the person who is in the unit that's being raided, again, the police kick the door down. There's a lot of commotion because you have every single officer is talking. All of them got an announcement, but get on the ground. And so all you hear is like that's all you literally hear. They normally will do the no-knock raid after midnight, really probably after 2 a.m. when they know that people are really in that REM stage of sleep. And so when you're, spontaneously awakened by somebody kicking the door in and there's yelling and there's a gun, if you're already kind of living a lifestyle where you kind of always feel that people may always be after you in the beginning or in the long run, if a door kicks in and you can barely make out what you see, you just see guns, you're probably going to reach for your gun as well. And so, and again, there's nothing against reaching for your weapon in your house or in a place in which you're staying. Because again, when you have the whatchamacallit laws in regards to standing your ground, depending on what state you live in. And so if you bust into somebody's house, you should expect what's going to happen. I think it's capsule law. It depends on what state you're in. And so the idea of trying to paint him out to be the aggressor when you busted in on him while he was sleeping, he woke up, all he did was pop up out of the blanket with a gun and he was shot. And then they tried to justify it. But anyway, it's been announced that there won't be any charges towards the police officer that killed him. And then what was interesting, at that same time, they just passed a law about no-knock warrants pretty much being outlawed in that area. Now the new rule would be the police show up to the unit, they knock and announce themselves, and then after a reasonable time, then they bust in. And I honestly think that even that law is kind of just keep everybody appeased and hopefully they shut up and don't riot because we're about to not charge this officer with what he did. That's kind of the energy that I got from that. And I think it goes back to, I said this last year, where, all of the performative antics that a lot of these corporations and lawmakers and everybody started making after 2020, when people saw what happened with George Floyd and people got a little nervous because all of these different cities and even places outside of the United States started having these different protests. And then you also had people infiltrate these protests and movements and they started burning down police stations and everything. It made people nervous. And so you saw all of these corporations, oh, we're going to pledge this much money to social justice, and we're going to do this, and we're going to do that, and this is something. And then all of a sudden, some mayors, oh, we're going to restructure our policing department, and we're going to cut the funding and put this into social programs and blah, 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 blah. And I think literally the only place I've seen where they actually did restructure some of the police budget was out of Colorado. I want to say, is it Denver? I don't remember where it was at. I want to say it's Denver. But what they did, they still have that police budget, but what they started to do was when it came to mental health calls, when somebody's having a moment, maybe they're schizophrenic or maybe they have some kind of condition that, affects how they interact with people and they're having a moment where they are a danger to themselves. Rather than sending out the police, they send out actual, specialists that deal with people who have those different conditions. I'm over here scrolling, trying to find the actual city because I don't want to just be up here saying anything and then be wrong. Where's the stupid thing at? Come on. If I can't find it, we'll keep it moving. But dang, man. Whatever. Okay, I don't want to spend too much time looking because I know y'all get mad when I take too long trying to find what I'm looking for. I know it's in Colorado though. I don't know if it's Denver or if it's somewhere else. But anyway, that's the only place I can think of where like a police budget was actually amended and shifted. Other than that, most police budgets increased. NYC increased, DC increased, Chicago increased, LAPD increased, like all of these places increased. And so all of these people made all these promises and then let some time bypass, and then all that was done. So even with the movements and the corporations that made their promises, most of them did not keep it. And I think, again, it goes back at that moment in time, people got scared because they saw that people got tired of the nonsense and the shenanigans and the foolery, and people were starting to uprise. People were being called out. And so corporations got nervous because there were all these threats of different boycotts. Different cities got nervous because they were afraid that people were going to uprise. Politicians got nervous because they were afraid, oh, this might affect our election. And then the fire died down, right? The fire dies down. And as the fire dies down, so does the performative actions. The performative actions of all of the police officers taking knees and the mayors going and doing the cha-cha slide. Because remember, people kept saying you do too much. Sometimes you got to let people have their moment. And I was going in the whole time. Thank you, Uptown Nate. Hey, what up, Uptown Nate Rob? I'm sorry. Shout out to her channel. I watch her channel a lot when I don't feel like actually reading a book, and she's already covered it. Her channel is really dope. So check her out. Also, she's from DC. I think she's in Atlanta now, but she's one of my favorite YouTubers. But going back to my point, as the fire and the smoke went down, so did the performative actions. And so now all of a sudden, like I was saying, at that point in time, I was saying, let's not let the symbolism get in the way of the progress that's being there. And so when everything happens, what did we all get in the end? We just got a bunch of cities that have a Black Lives Matter sign painted somewhere on the street. And even with that, white folks came with paint, trying to paint over that. So, that's where we're at. And so what ended up happening, because again, I think by 2020, a lot of people weren't even that serious about what they were outraged about. It was kind of just a cool thing to do for a lot of people. For many of us, this is our life. But for a lot of people who are from the outside looking in, and this is the first time they're really realizing that, yes, for the last however many decades when we've been saying these different things have been happening to Black people collectively all over the country, finally people got their wake-up call because they saw that 8 minutes, right? And so again, all we got was symbolism. Okay, the Congress people are going to take a knee for 8 to 9 minutes, and then Nancy couldn't get up because she forgot that, ma'am, not to be ageist, but recognize that your body at a certain point in time is not going to be able to do certain things after a certain age. But thank you for the gesture. It was nice, I guess, and somebody had to help her up. But yeah, so as the smoke and the fire goes down, then you saw also the kickback from middle white America that was fearful of anything Black. Because then what came next? Next in line was the anti-CRT nonsense. And then you started seeing an influx of very extreme candidates that have no policy, no end goal for anything. They're just, we're going to go there. We're going to shake up Washington. And so you get Lauren Boebert and Marjorie Taylor Greene and all of these lunatics who have no policy. Their goal is just to kind of stir up chaos. And it's one thing to want to shake up Washington because there's nonsense going there, and I totally agree. But it's another thing when you've pretty much created politics to become a space of, literally just almost like cult wars, where people have become fans of politicians and political parties, and now it's literally war about the parties and not the actual issues that affect people and the things that people actually want. So when you get somebody like a Marjorie Taylor Greene or Lauren Boebert or some of these other folks, they could care less about the people who voted for them. They just, I'm going to go shake up Washington, and they all got the political ads with the gun, and and I'm like, all right, here we go with this nonsense. And so we got a lot of that. And so now that the pendulum has started swinging back the other way, again, you get the anti-CRT bills. Like in Virginia, they have the hotline for parents to call if they feel that their child has been taught some CRT. And even the conversation of CRT is so broad. At this point, anything that doesn't tell white people that they're great is considered CRT. So kids cannot learn about Ruby Bridges or Martin Luther King or just even the basic stuff that they taught my generation. Because I've already said, my generation was taught a very whimsical approach to race, right? If you went to K through 12 in the United States in a public school system between about 78 and let's say 2005, 2006, your introduction into Black history was, okay, here was slavery, here was the Jim Crow era, then Martin Luther King had a dream, Rosa sat on the bus, and then Oprah had a TV show, and we're all good now, and let's look at how great things are. So the books go from slavery to Oprah in like 20 to 40 pages, and every history book we had always ended with a happy ending, and usually the happy ending was just highlighting celebrities that had made it. So in my book, this history book I had, it was one of those McGraw-Hill books. It was Janet Jackson. It was a picture of her from the Rhythm Nation tour, which just goes to show the books were old, because Rhythm Nation tour was like 1990. I was in high school in the mid 2000s. And so you get all that, but even that is too much now. That's too much. And so now they're like gutting and going back even further. So now we're almost back to where we're in a state of like the book, like the history of Georgia that they used to teach in the 60s. We went over that book before where it talked about slavery and tried to make it look exciting. And it was like, oh, you know, those that were slaves had a froth with the slave master and they would have picnics and they would be singing. And it was just a good time. You know, they would do their work. And then as the sun went down, they'd sit around the campfire and sing and make s'mores. You know, that was kind of, if you look at that book, it's called the History of Georgia. You know, that's what was being taught in the schools before they started really teaching the latter half of Gen X and the early half of millennials. But yeah, so now you're seeing that nonsense. And in addition to that, they're starting to put more people in the forefront as faces of that nonsense, but just in blackface. So now you get like a Herschel Walker, who he done been knocked in the head too many times already from football, but he's gonna run for Senate and can't even speak in complete sentences. But you have him up there and he's talking about some TRT, I'm not black, I'm not white, I'm an American. Okay, if you want to do that symbolism thing, go right ahead. But recognize that they're playing you for this little game you're in. And then, of course, you know, you have the others that have already been doing the nonsense, and you have people like a Tim Scott, who I know he has to be embarrassed. You black man in what, South Carolina? And then, you know, when he had to justify why he wasn't confirming a Supreme Court justice, he had to give some really kind of just cuckoo answer to make it seem like his morals are just so high that he just can't bring himself to do it. I was like, sir, they got you bought out. But that's why he won South Carolina. Honestly, you get some black person to play the role. And that's why I say when you talk about black faces in high spaces and places, recognize that everybody is not for the collective. And a lot of people who get into these positions of power have sold themselves out for an opportunity at financial, you know, prosperity for themselves and their family, but at the expense of their own collective. And people need to recognize there's a difference between being a black face in that space and then being somebody who's in that space and advocating for your collective and ensuring that the decisions that you make or the decisions that you fight for are not decisions that work against your collective or become something that is detrimental to the people in which you claim to represent. And that's the issue we run into, because now when you challenge somebody like a Tim Scott or a Candace Owens or some of these other people that just do the most, people who want to hold on to that status quo of whiteness will come and fight you and say, oh, so you don't support the first black senator of South Carolina? No, I don't. So what you gonna do about it? Anyway, you know, that's kind of the image they do. Or, oh, wow, look at, like, I think I said something about Candace Owens one time. Wow, look at the black man again trying to tear down a black woman. No, we're not going to do that, because recognize her work has nothing to do with the prosperity of black America. And so in my response to that, she does not represent what it is I stand for or where I come from. She represents somebody who is a shell of herself trying to climb up, and she's embarrassed herself. And somebody need to get her a hairstylist. I'm not want to talk about folks' hair because we'll get into the whole Chris Rock thing all over again. But dang, come on, man. You got money at this point. Do something about that. But goodness. And it kind of leads into even a conversation about Clarence Thomas, where here we are, again, another black face in a high space, but recognize everything he's done has literally been detrimental, not even just to black folks. Because the other thing about America is so funny is that, you know, every time the United States does something that's detrimental to black people collectively, it's also detrimental to the other citizens of America who are not wealthy white Americans. So anytime they come out with something that's detrimental to us, it affects everybody else aside from wealthy white folks. So working class white Americans suffer under that nonsense, okay? The Latino community suffers under the nonsense. The Asian community, they like to deny it, but they suffer under it as well. All these different groups suffer under that because we're now in a space where people will let the country burn in order to just be right. And their definition of being right is maintaining the status quo of ensuring that whiteness is still the standard. And so people vote against themselves. People vote against the things that, you know, were better. Like, look at Marsha Blackburn, all right? So even this is why, like, when Trump got in, and again, y'all know I'm not a fan of Trump, and y'all know Biden, two-party system. Y'all know where I stand. But anyway, it was interesting because I remember when Trump got in, a lot of white women were mad because I said, I never want to hear anything about feminism again after I saw the numbers of what y'all voted for and how proud y'all were to vote for it. It wasn't even about the different candidates, but it was about recognizing what they stood for and what they were going to put into policy. And so here we are, and you're looking at all the different attacks that are on women's productive rights and even just their rights to exist in many different realms. And then again, even with the conversations around the pay gap, where that can't even get passed, because again, you guys have passed and pushed and supported all of these candidates who stood on a platform of whiteness at your own expense. And really the definition of whiteness is really just white male prosperity. That's really what that is. And everybody else plays the role. And so here we are. And so when you get to somebody like a Clarence Thomas, where again, the issues we're running into with voting rights, okay, who was one of the main people to vote to strike down Section 4 of the Voting Rights Act? Clarence freaking Thomas. And I talked about this on the last live, so I won't go 100% in depth. But again, how did he get on there? George Bush played that game for y'all. Bush number one. Thurgood Marshall said, I'm out. I'm ready to retire. I don't want to do this crap no more. I'm out. And they said, oh, well, we definitely have to put somebody black up there because we don't want the black community to be pissed off. And so rather than, getting somebody who would vote and make judgments in the interest of ensuring that black people would not, receive the short end of the stick collectively from what this country allegedly offers, we'll just go ahead and put somebody who looks the part but still has all of our ideology. So they put in Clarence Thomas, who is the polar opposite. And the only thing that Clarence Thomas and Thurgood Marshall have in common is that they were black. But politically, and as far as their viewpoints, two totally different ends of the spectrum. And then again, you look at his wife and the smoke that's coming to her. Because again, she has so many, there's more evidence coming out about the connection she had in regards to January 6th. We already know that she helped fund the buses that were going out there, but there's just so many other things that are coming out there. And it's recognizing that even with some of the people who may have been possibly put into the cabinet and put into some positions of power, she played a role in influencing. And again, recognize that, in my opinion, I'm sure she influences a lot of the decisions that he makes on the court, which would explain why when they decided to take it to the Supreme Court in regards to the January 6th investigation, he is the only Supreme Court justice to vote against them doing the investigation. I wonder why, because it's going to hit a little close to home. Folks going to learn. So just recognize, like I said, there's a difference between a face and somebody that advocates for the community in which they come from. And even with the conversation of diversity, for me, diversity is not just getting a bunch of people from different races and backgrounds and put them in a room together and they work together. Diversity, to me, should showcase that if you bring people from different spaces in which they come from culturally, then that culture is actually represented and they also represent that culture in which they come from. But in the United States, they play this game where they'll get all of these different faces and different people from different backgrounds, but they all still fight for that same status quo to remain. And so that's why you see, that's what I said earlier, where when it comes to a lot of these people who get into these positions of power, especially that are elected, a lot of times, by the time they get there, they are so safe. And when I say safe, it means they're just not going to shake the table in regards to ensuring that even the very collectives in which they come from can actually receive something tangible. It's more so they get into office and their job is to maintain what's already there. Their job is to just kind of stabilize what's already there. Or if they're being used as a pawn, their job is to be a mouth for white supremacy and blackface and just play the role and come off as super cool. So even when you had Diamond and Silk back in the day when they were stumping for Trump, so they have their viewpoints and everything, but look at how they would present their viewpoints. They're going to now latch onto the caricatures of what people think black people are as far as the generalizations and the stereotypes. And so every single time that they're at a rally, it's almost, he gonna build that wall. Yes, he is. Oh, yes, I said so. Oh, because I ain't playing no games. And I'm just like, God damn. And then, and so, you put somebody like that. And so people who already don't really associate with black folks already are like, oh, well, yeah, see, they're super down and look what they support. And people think all of a sudden they speak for the black collective, because they got the hair pieces and everything else, and they can speak the lingo and they can look the part and they got all the attitude and all the energy and they're fun and entertaining to watch. So yeah, I like how they think. And so what happens with this channel is so funny. People who don't agree with my viewpoints, and what's crazy? YouTube, you can always tell where somebody is from culturally just by how they leave a comment. The minute I hear see a comment and I see utter trash, I'm like, okay, that's a white man. So it's the first time I heard utter trash from this channel. Yeah, that's a white guy. And everything else like that. But it's so interesting. You can literally tell how people, for crying out loud, give me a break. Wham, wham, wham. I'm like, oh yeah. Or if I see the phrase victimhood, I'm like, oh, I know who wrote that comment. But yeah, it's interesting. So I think we have to be careful about celebrating those who come into those spaces. So anyway, going back to the Supreme Court justice, I do hope that she does right by the people. I'm not too worried about her. I think she'll be okay. But again, I think it's bigger than just the Supreme Court. It's all of these local people that are getting into local office and those who are running for different offices. Just kind of be aware. And like I've been saying since 2017 or 2018, again, I'm not a big fan of the two-party system, but I do believe you can utilize the two-party system to get what you want by advocating for your third-party system to influence one of those two parties. You know what I mean? I think because unless a third party can bring in the kind of money that the two-party system has, which I highly doubt, because these two sides have billions to work with, and you can only out-organize so much with the working and middle class. The money is just not there. I just definitely believe in building whatever coalition with that third party that has enough influence where if they choose not to support one of the major two parties, those two parties loses, or that party loses whatever election they're going for. And so by that way, you have some leverage to make some political decisions, even if you are in a minority position. But you have enough representation to make a major dent into what happened. Like a perfect example is when you talk about the state of Virginia and the governor's election. And, now they have, Cuckoo Man in office. But what was really interesting is one of the reasons why the candidate that is in now is when you look at the Ethiopian community. A lot of them voted Republican in that election, and it was in response to what was happening with Ethiopia as far as the civil war that they're having within, the Tigray region and the rest of the country. A lot of them were not fans of how the current administration responded, and so they were thinking of home. And for them, home is across the water, and so they chose to vote for the Republican candidate. So again, it's recognizing what it is that the people actually want and recognizing who you have leverage with. So even though they are not a large voter demographic, there was enough of them to make major dents in some of those counties and districts that were pivotal for, the Democrat candidate to win. And so recognizing that, again, know who your audience is, know what kind of stake you have in this game. A lot of people feel that their votes and stuff don't matter at this point because, we get a lot of really crappy candidates. And I always say that's because by the time people start paying attention, the candidates that actually had a shot, they didn't get the support. They didn't get the donations. They never even made it to the platform. They never made it off Twitter. And so by the time you get to the primaries and everything, it's all the bought out candidates. And now we got to choose from which candidate is going to stab us the least terribly. Which candidate has the shortest blade. Anyway, and then the other thing, by the way, that candidate also sucked. Terry McAuliffe, he sucked in my opinion because he wasn't a good governor when he was there to begin with. And his fault, and I think other candidates should recognize this, you're not going to win an election by trying to make everybody be the boogeyman and, oh my goodness, they're associated with Trump or they're just like Trump. That's not going to be enough to stir voters because you can only make Trump the boogeyman for so long. It's almost like flipping the script in how white folks were with Obama. Same kind of energy. You can only boogeyman for so long. You have to have policy that people are interested in. So if you're trying to appeal to a demographic that you already know is not about the budge on where they stand in things, you kicking down their favorite candidate isn't going to change anything. So I suggest maybe you highlight and showcase what policy you're really trying to put in that may possibly appeal to them. Even if it doesn't appeal to them, it might just almost pull in those independent and undecided voters. Now, again, all the politicians get on my nerves. I really don't like nobody, but it is what it is. I have been talking a lot, so I want to go to the comments for a second. Let's keep it moving. Y'all done brought my energy up because I was so tired before I got onto this. All right, I'm gonna just go halfway because we'll be here all day. Y'all said not making s'mores. That was in response to the history of Georgia book. Incredible said Uptown They Rob is effing hilarious. Great channel. Yeah, she be cracking me up with the books. When she did the that Diana Ross book, I was dying reading that when she was reading it. What she does is like her version of her book club is like it's like literally like sitting like this, and she's literally reading the books but giving the commentary as she does it. And then she kind of gives the commentary through her perspective, and that's what makes it hilarious. I've been there dying. She be giving the people different nicknames. It's really funny. So that's a fun channel to watch. All right. Spoken Wisdom said, this is how I feel about Ketanji's confirmation. More of the same, respectability and performative politics. To an extent, yeah, I agree. And I think with the Supreme Court, to me, the Supreme Court's always been conservative to begin with, even when it was the other way around, when it was 5-4 leaning left. It was still conservative then. And I think with the Supreme Court, the only thing that, well, not anymore because now it's a mess, but I always felt what kind of separated the Supreme Court from our legislators was at least, they're interpreting law and they're supposed to stick with the law, but then that's where their bias comes in and kind of shifts the whole dynamic. So we never know what we're going to get. But like I said, I put like Cory Booker, Kamala, Ms. Jackson, Maxine. I put all of them in the same box where, they're pretty level-headed. You don't have to worry about them doing anything too crazy, but they're never going to cross a certain threshold if it compromises the respectability image that they have. Like that's kind of where I see them. And it's pretty much most of the elected officials in power that are Black that are on a congressional level. I kind of see all of them in that same boat because again, you're not going to get elected shaking the table, not in this country pretty much. And so you just see so many that are compromised or bought out and they mean well, but then when it comes to, implementation and time to make action, you be like, what's happening? You just get symbolism. It's kind of like the DC mayor. Like I look at the shift she's made from when she was first elected to now. And it's like, you're not even the same person anymore. You just out here doing anything now. All right. Latoya said, don't want to talk about slaves, but Virginia stays taking students to the plantation as a school trip. That's one thing I'm glad I never experienced. That's the one time it was good to be in Washington State. We never had to do anything like that because there's no cotton fields over there that I at least know about. All right. I want to see like some real people get put into power. That's all. Let me get some real black folks. I'm sorry. Can we get some folks that have like, I'm not trying to be that person, but can we get somebody who's had like a real black experience and an experience that can relate to everybody? And this is not towards Miss Jackson, but just in response to like people who are running for office and everything. Let's get some real people in there, please. Some people who can speak the language of the collective. Because the other thing, as much as people hate black folks, people still love black folks because they recognize, that I think because black people collectively have been through so much, we understand what it feels like to not be treated well. And I think as a collective, we've always just had a nurturing spirit, even the people who do us wrong. And so people feel comfortable with us in spaces. But the problem is when it becomes a conversation of resources, people feel challenged and they don't want people doing better than them. And that's why you always get so much kickback. But it's just the most interesting thing. But anyway, let me see. Somebody said Trump and Candace Owens 2024. Oh God. Oh Lord. No, they're not gonna put Candace there. He don't even respect her like that. While she's doing all that jump roping and shucking and jiving, he don't even rock with her like that. Anyway. Somebody said America's a country built on a corporation. Exactly. And that's why we're seeing our politics, everybody's bought out. Okay, look at all the promises that have been made between like 2016 and now, and how pretty much none of them took place because the corporations influence who's going to be signing what bills. And so people ran on all these platforms with all the things they were going to do, and ain't none of it got done. The only people who benefited in like the last 8 years were rich people in businesses and corporations. Man. All right, I'm going to keep going because it's already 10 o'clock. And yeah, all right. All right, Will Smith. Let me take a sip of my tea first. And I'm just thirsty. I'm not one of them people that's messing. Oh, we about to have tea. I wish some, no disrespect to the other channels, but please get some new phrases. I'm tired of hearing about tea. All right. Anyway, Will Smith. So here's my thing. It's interesting that this is even still a conversation. I'm like, y'all have milked this story to death. Like, folks are acting like this man went up there and unloaded the clip on national TV. So now, as you see, like at this point, they have released the hammer and they're dropping the hammer on that guy. So he's resigned from the academy, or whatever he was on. You see that like different corporations and movie companies and studios are pulling away from different projects. Netflix has pulled away from something. Bad Boys for Life. I guess they were going to make a fourth one. That's on pause. There's all these different things taking place. Excuse me. But what was interesting was, I think I said this in the video. I said what was eventually going to happen was like white America was going to come out and do the most. And it's not even just white America, because there's a lot of black folks in that respectability lane that really had a lot to say. And here's the thing, like I said, because even on my video, folks was cussing me out. I was like, I didn't go and slap the man. All I said was I could understand the rage, but people took my words and ran with it. And, yeah, so you would go up there. And I was like, I literally said I would not have responded the same way, but I understand the rage. But yeah, people have just been dissecting their marriage and all this other stuff. And then the Academy wants to do sanctions. And I'm like, y'all are digging real deep on this for this one slap. But again, it goes back to what I've said before about they will make an example out of you. So that's why I say for like, man, fabrications will unfold. So you might as well do you. All right. And that's real talk. Like when you try to build a specific image of always kind of being safe and you just always want to be likable to everybody, eventually, when the real you comes out at some point, or you come out of your element in that one moment, they use that forever against you and you will never be seen the same. That's how they look what they did to Janet. You know what I mean? All that career she has, and they will never let that Super Bowl go. And that's what it is. And they'll do that to anyone. And so sadly, he's learned the hard way because, again, like I said, he was what you would call a safe entertainer. He never talked politics. He was never going to shake the table. His music was relatively clean, safe enough for white folks. Even like, remember when MTV used to do the Wanna Be a VJ, where you could audition and you could be like a Carson Daly if you won? And I remember they had the Wanna Be a VJ, must have been 2000 or 2001. And it came down to, I don't remember the girl's name, but I remember she was from the South and it was this white guy. And there was this question where they asked them, And it was so funny because the girl, I remember Method Man had come out and they did like a surprise interview. Like they're like, we're gonna bring out a surprise celebrity. You got to interview them. We're not gonna tell you who it is. So Method Man came out and she didn't know who it was. And she, oh hi, how are you? And like she played it off really well. But anyway, they started asking the question of, if you could pick a celebrity to be president, who would you pick? So the guy was like, nobody. Who wants a celebrity to be president? What you want, Marilyn Manson running the country? And then she goes and she was like, definitely Will Smith, and she gives all of these reasons as to why he's super, super great. And I was like, I told y'all. So the thing is, like, once there's an image that they have of you, when you go against it and you've shaken their level of comfortability, now comes the rage and they're outraged and upset. Because the other thing I thought about, had it been Samuel Jackson that would have there and slapped Chris Rock, there was still going to be backlash, but I don't think it would have been the same, because there's almost an expectation that if Samuel Jackson was sitting there and you said something about his wife, he was going to come up there and slap you. That's not an expectation for somebody like a Will Smith. And so, you kind of just saw the next phase, which was like all the exaggerations. So it's like Kathy Griffin of all people comes out there and was like, oh my God, there's assault on the stage. And I'm like, Kathy, you just got out of the smoke that you were in over the little Donald Trump head thing. I would have thought you would have set this one out. Amy Schumer talking about she has to take a month off. She's so shaken up by what happened and she was traumatized. Like, Amy, you were backstage. I don't even think you saw it because you were probably changing dresses. Is this really that deep? But then she talked about what joke she initially wanted to tell, but the Academy said it was too much. She was literally about to make an Alec Baldwin joke about, the woman that died on set. And I'm like, so you were cool making a joke about somebody being killed, but you seen the slap was just too much. And then that led me to Alec Baldwin. I'm like, bro, you killed somebody. You don't get to jump in this conversation. Okay? It's like, some people don't need to talk. Remember when we reviewed the Clark Sister movie and when Twinkie had the husband that took her to go move away and everything like that, and mind you, he didn't have a job. And so when they were getting ready to move, the mom didn't want them to leave, and he pushed the mama. And I'm just like, wait, you're not even working? You don't get to push nobody for free. Like, well, hold on. You ain't about to push my mama, and you ain't even working. Hold up, wait a minute. But anyway, same energy. So you're seeing all of the exaggerations, and people, even Sonny on The View got on my nerves. I was like, Sonny, you're doing a whole lot right now. A whole lot. And I understand. Like I said, Will was foolish to do what he did and how he did it. But the reaction that's coming is it doesn't even align with what the offense is. Folks are just doing the most. But again, it just highlights Hollywood will put you in that box. And when you go against the grain and you shake that table, you're done for. And so now they're trying to make an example out of him. I do think over time he'll kind of be able to recover some of what has been lost, but people were doing the most. I remember somebody had like a viral tweet where it was like, what if Betty White was still alive? He went and slapped her and then she fell. And what did they say? You get a concussion and be knocked out unconscious. I was like, see, y'all over here creating whole scenarios now. This is a stretch. Betty ain't even here no more. Okay. Like, all right. But no, Will at the same time, yeah, I think that was foolish. And I do think Chris, he did that to Chris because he knew he could do that to Chris. He wouldn't have done that to anybody else. Even if it was like Cat Williams, he wouldn't have tried that, because Cat Williams, as small as he is, would have still, Cat Williams, I don't know if he would have clowned on his back and tried to choke him or what, but I don't think Will would have been able to get away with doing that to anybody else, as far as like any other Black comedians. But we'll see how it goes. But what's going to happen is Chris is going to be pretty much uplifted by white America into new heights. I think it'll be a boom for his career now because he gets the sympathy card. Will, I don't know. It's interesting. We'll see what happens. But yeah, folks are doing the most. Like, again, and then as far as Will and Jada, because people started really digging into their relationship. Like I said before, when we did the video on the entanglement situation, I just feel Will and Jada I think couples have their own level of crazy that they deal with. And this is why when August Alsina came into the conversation, and I said, even though at that point in time, Jada and Will were wherever they were, and August came into the picture, in regards to you being somebody who steps into somebody else's marriage or whatever else you do, a lot of times people are not going to leave their spouse for the jump off, mainly because they are used to their spouse's level of crazy, or the crazy that exists within that relationship. They have gotten used to each other, especially Will and Jada. They've been together like 20 years. So the triggers for them, they have created a system that works for them. It may not be what everybody is into, but what they have for them works for them. And this is why a lot of times when you see the people where they go and they come into an affair with somebody and then they get mad because the person doesn't leave their husband or their wife, to marry whoever they're having the affair with. No, because home is home for them. Even though they're stepping out, there is a level of comfortability and something that is familiar with that kind of level of crazy. Every couple has their own crazy that works uniquely for them. And so I think sometimes when people from the outside looking in try to step in and think that they're going to be able to kind of, you always hear that line, well, if they were taking care of their home and doing what they was doing at home, they wouldn't be coming to my house. Yeah, but they come to your house and then they leave and go back to theirs. Like, you know what I mean? So it is what it is. I saw some rumor where they're like, oh, they're gonna bring it to the red table talk. I think if they're smart, they'll just shut up about it and let it blow over. Let the thing just die. That's where Janet was smart with the Super Bowl. She's never really talked about it. Yeah, she talked about it on Oprah, but didn't say anything. She talked about it in the documentary, but didn't say anything. And she's never gonna say anything about it. And people have moved on, kind of, to an extent. I think they would have to just do the same thing. Um, yeah, because it's like, yeah, you just let it die off over time. You keep bringing it up, it's only going to make things worse because it's kind of like ripping the band-aid back off, and people already want to be dramatic. All right. But no, as far as Will and Jada, that's the last time we're talking about them because I don't want to hear about it anymore. It's been on social media for the last week and a half. I'm sick of hearing it. My goodness, the dramatics. Anyway. Let's see. Said people can't do that. If I fight on my job, I'll be fired. And that goes back to the point that I said where, like with Will, I would have not responded the same way he did. And so the smoke that you created for yourself, I hope you got a mask with a strong filter because it's coming for you. Um, let's keep it going. Calvin, thoughts on the DMV funeral? I think I had that on my last page, but I guess addressing that real quick. Did I write it down? Where did I know I wrote it down. I ain't crazy. Hold on a minute. Oh yeah, good news. Okay, yeah. So there's a DC rapper. A lot of you guys have seen the footage on social media. Long story short, he was sadly killed not too long ago. But at Bliss nightclub down the street from over here, they pretty much had his body like propped up in the club, and people kind of had his like going away party thing, and it went viral, and people were kind of freaking out about it. Different, but I wasn't judging. And I say that because I've seen in other cultures where some groups do things similar. But I mean, the family specifically said that's what they wanted. So, hey, that's all I can say about it. Now, for me, when my time comes, please don't have me propped up at anything with folks, twerking on my corpse. Don't have me. Because then, once you pass on anyway, your color starts to fade out. You start getting that gray look. Don't have me out there like that. Then people take pictures of me. Like, I don't even think I want to open casket when my time comes. Close the casket. Y'all better remember how I looked when I looked good. Like, don't get me all shriveled up and all the pigment and kind of faded out. I don't know, but it is what it is. I had no real thoughts about it. I was just like, okay, interesting. That would kind of freak me out though if I was at a party and there's just like a dead body right there. Like it would just kind of feel awkward. Or what if somebody like bumps it on accident and the whole body falls over? And then again, if the body's embalmed and everything, you don't know how the body will hold itself together. It hits any kind of like brunt force. I don't know. I wouldn't be able to do it. All right. Like, yeah, okay. But, to each his own. Well, y'all are going in on Jada. Like I said, Will and Jada are their own. They got their own level of what they got. That's them. I don't live in their house. I ain't pressed about it. Panda Deck said the respectability politics black folks made it even worse. They were the worst. And when it's their turn, they're gonna be gone up out of here too. These black folks do not realize. I think that's in response to Will. Because it was kind of irritating. Because the thing was you already know how the wave goes. Like if you as a black figure in any kind of public space do something out of pocket, when the smoke comes to you, it comes in waves. First, there's the initial shock. Then people are laughing and joking about it. And then the next step is the over exaggerated outrage. And then comes the punitive decisions where we start taking stuff away. Like it's the same cycle every single time. That's why when so many folks were really, like, in my opinion, doing the most about it, okay, we know it is what it is. A lot of y'all are just mad that it happened at the Oscars. I'm out, to be honest. I'm glad it happened at the Oscars and not the Soul Train Awards. Go on and tear up the awards, so don't tear up our stuff. But it is what it is. Y'all don't gotta agree with me on that, and that's fine. Because a lot of y'all were mad at me with that Will video. Like, oh my God, Calvin, I thought I'd never disagree with you. Sorry, it's just how I feel. Anyway, all the fake trauma. I was just so traumatized. I taking a month off. Amy, if you don't sit down somewhere, jeez. The dramatics. Let's see. Latoya, my point exactly. She said, also not cool to be talking about people and not get effed up. Because again, if they would have did it on the street, nobody would have had anything to say. If it was them and it was some little random clip somewhere backstage and it would have hit all the blogs, nobody would have had anything to say. But again, it was in the nice, poised Oscars, the Academy. And everybody's in their tuxedos. So it is what it is. Anyway, I'm sick of talking about that. But yeah, shout out to Questlove. I was really happy that he won with Summer of Soul. I really love that documentary. I've watched that a few times. I think it's on Netflix now. Um, anyway, oh, Monique, good for her. And I'm talking about Monique, the comedian and actress. Her and Lee Daniels have finally made amends. And really, in my opinion, I think Lee Daniels just needed Monique more than she needed him, to be honest. Because look, all his shows and stuff after the Jussie situation, all his shows were yanked off of Fox. Empire was already losing ratings, and then the Jussie situation happened, and Empire was gone. And then Star never really had, I think that's what it was called, never had those kind of ratings to begin with. And so that got yanked. But he's made a public apology to Monique, and she will be starring in his next movie, Demon Time. Octavia was supposed to be in that role, but she has like some scheduling issues. So now Monique is going to be in it. And like with Lee Daniels, like again, when I say black faces in high spaces, like I respect some of his work, but for me, I didn't like how any of that situation was handled with Monique. And I think the trigger for me was once Monique started addressing what happened. And this is before Monique even talked about the Netflix stuff. This is when she was just saying, I've been blacklisted. And she started talking about it. And then when Lee Daniels went on the Don Lemon show, and this is when Don Lemon was still stupid. Remember, Don Lemon didn't get his wake-up call until a few years ago, because when all of these initial police killings were happening, he was on there saying the most anti-black stuff every 5 minutes about pull up your pants and, oh, I'm out here and the smell of weed is obviously in the air and all that crap. And so even though all of a sudden he's gotten his wake-up call, my eye is on you, Don. But anyway, he went on the Don Lemon show, and then when he did this whole spiel about, oh, well, what Monique did was reverse racist. I was like, what? Go, what? What? I couldn't even do like a, what? It couldn't be that. It was slow. What? 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 You went on that show and said that nonsense? And yeah, so his whole thing was she didn't play the game, and we're not going to go through the whole story of what happened, but just recognize, you know, they wanted her to do some things. And mind you, she only got $50,000 for the movie Precious. They wanted her to go to Cannes Festival and go to Europe and promote for and campaign for the Academy Award. And she was like, well, y'all only gave me $50,000. I got twins and stuff to take care of at home. So are y'all going to pay me to go over here and do it? And oh, well, we don't pay for that. And she said, okay, well, no, thank you. I'm going to take care of my family. And that apparently rubbed everybody the wrong way. And so next thing you know, she's blacklisted. And then you tie in what happens with Oprah and Netflix and everything else like that. And it's like Monique and her husband, which I got opinions on, versus Tyler, Oprah, Lee Daniels, Will Packer, everybody. Look, she has smoke for everybody. Like when you ain't got nothing to lose, everybody can catch it. But even Steve Harvey, like some of these people owe her an apology as well. I think Steve should apologize because I did not like the interview that took place on his show where he pretty much chastised her for opening her mouth and pretty much saying you need to play the game and be quiet. Meanwhile, we had no idea that he had all this money he owed to the IRS because somebody had scammed him. And so the reason he's been on 850,000 shows is he had to pay back all that money to the IRS. So that explains why he was doing so much tap dancing, because he couldn't mess up the money. But anyway, you know, Whoopi, it was interesting because when she went on The View, Whoopi pretty much told her, you got to kind of shut up and everything, just for Whoopi to be made an example out of again when she started talking about the conversations around the Holocaust. I'm like, you see how things just align? All right, you do wrong by people, watch how things come out. But I just didn't like how a lot of that was handled with Lee Daniels. I thought he was such a punk in a lot of that, just in regards to how he handled things. And he knew how that game works. And he knows how Hollywood is crooked. And so if you know that the game already operates like that, they don't need your help helping to kick her down. And they're pretty much sealing the deal on her experience, because what Hollywood does is once you as a black entertainer you get the label of you're difficult to work with, you know, white Hollywood has already written you off. So then you as a black person to go on there and then co-sign, it kind of like, it's like a double-edged sword. It kind of like doubles down. And it's like, okay, well now, not only are we saying it, but one of them are saying it. So yeah, we really don't have to work with her. And so it was just like, no, not at all. Now, Monique, I do think there could have been some things she could have did a little differently. But that all of that is some nonsense to me. So, you know, we'll see how it goes. But yeah, I don't know. It is what it is. It's just Hollywood entertainment is already like a dog eat dog world. And so I understand people are going to do what they got to do to get theirs, but dang, y'all going to kick people while they're down and then drag them and make sure they don't climb back up because you want to protect yourself too. Like, dang, that's not an industry I want to be in. I'm telling, well, it is, but not in that realm. I don't think I'll ever get into those doors because they won't be like, he talked too damn much. He don't know how to shut up. Anyway, somebody said, let me review her contract, please. I hope they're paying us some money. They be lowballing folks. Somebody said he needed to pay back Damon. Look, Dame Dash. I forgot about that. Remember he was at the concert. He had that little shot. It's in my closet. I don't feel like getting up to go get it. Remember that time I was on that little Netflix documentary? I did that one video when it went off. I had my little shades and that little scarf thing. He had one of them little blue. I don't know. It was something. Somebody said it was just from Walmart. I was doing the most on the video because I thought it was like some wealthy people's scarf. But he was at the Diana Ross concert in his little little shawl thing. And mind you, Diana Ross is in the background. I want muscles. And Dame Dash is over here just chewing them out. And Diana done went through about 3 songs. Reach out and touch. And Dame is going in. And Lee Daniels is so embarrassed. He's kind of like, I will give you your money. We can talk about this another time. Like Lee was pissed. Like he done spent all this money to see Diana. And here you come ready to square up, talking about pay up. Like, man, he was ready to hear Mirror, Mirror. And here you come. Talk about where's his money. $2 million. I would have did the same thing. $2 million. You out here hiding. You done had Empire and all these shows and movies and The Butler, and you ain't paid me my money. Okay, man. Goodness. Ada said, I'll never understand why they didn't just pay Monique. I didn't get that either. Like, if you want somebody to travel to Europe and all that stuff and go to all the festivals, you can't at least pay their travel accommodations. You know what I mean? Like, goodness. I see that Kanye dropped out of Coachella. They didn't really say why. It seems like it might be mental. I hope the guy gets some help. Kanye works my nerve, but there's still an element of empathy I do have for his experience because, again, he has the mental health issues and some other things happening. I do hope he gets some help. But it's interesting because he literally canceled a week before it was scheduled. And so they were trying to find, the replacement performer. It's going to be The Weeknd. And so he demanded that they give him exactly what they were giving Kanye. Kanye was going to be paid $8 million to do Coachella plus $500,000 for the staging expenses. Now, if I was The Weeknd, to be honest, I probably would have demanded more because it's such short notice. And again, a festival, if all these people have bought tickets because they wanted to see Kanye and then here you come, I think they kind of have similar audiences. But festivals are already hard if people have not come there to see you. And I think it's already, you get a lot of smoke if the crowd doesn't respond to you well. So, I would have said, go ahead and give me $9 million if you're going to have me do it because you brought me in last minute. And now I'm supposed to put together this magical show in like a week. I think The Weeknd may have been on tour already. So most likely he would just do his tour set. I'm not sure if he's on tour or not. But yeah, he literally gets a week to put his stuff together. But at the same time, he doesn't do choreography or anything. So he won't have to do too much staging. So that might work. But, I don't think they would have been able to pull that off with somebody that was more of a visual performer that does more dancing and different staging and stuff like that. Let's see. Let me keep it reading here. All right. This has been a fun little live so far. Do you think Biden will attempt to seat an Asian on the Supreme Court? He might. He needs to figure out 2024 because I don't think he needs to run. They need to figure out something else because unless something super, super crazy happens that just makes Republicans look absolutely terrible, I don't really know what the outcome of 2024 is. It's just because there's too many promises that have been put out there that people feel some kind of way about because they haven't really been taken care of. And I understand it's only been a year and a half, but they're going to have to find a way to strategize. And because when you're looking at the approval ratings for him and Kamala, they're not good at all. I think Kamala's approval rating is like 28 or 38%. And mind you, we don't even see her. Like, people mad at her and she ain't even around. I said, Lord. So we'll see. I mean, I could see it, but my fear with that is a lot of Asian people that tend to be in those positions tend to be very conservative. And so I'm like, I don't know. We'll see. But hopefully whoever puts whoever in there, like for me, I'm not pressed about where they come from or what they look like. I just want to know what their views on the policy are, honestly. Because again, you can put only so many faces in these different, positions, and I'm not moved by that. I want to see what the policy is. I want to see where they stand on different things, how they're going to vote on certain things. I understand the conversation of representation, but representation is not just about throwing a face up there. It has to be more so something, again, that reflects what that community, aspires to achieve or what it is that they're passionate about. They're just putting people up there with the faces, and then it is what it is. It kind of makes me think of who they put in charge of education during the Bush administration when they started coming out with all the new rules and everything, especially in DC, it was the Asian woman. I can't think of her name. But boy, these DC schools went through hell when she got up in there. Hell. And it was to the point because it was kind of similar to what was happening with No Child Left Behind, where the schools would face punitive responses when the kids weren't testing properly. So then you started having teachers and stuff cheat, and schools were cheating to just make sure they could hit the bare minimum so they wouldn't lose funding. It was a whole lot of nonsense. But I'm not, just because you're black, I don't want you up there if you just gonna be up there doing anything or whatever race you are. I'm sure Joe, he's been a very symbolic candidate, so I can see him doing that. To me, I feel like he runs the country as if it's 1994, as if, because to me, I feel like in the 90s, symbolism, you could get away with it because social media wasn't out yet and people couldn't criticize politicians in the same way. You just saw people on the street corner with their air horn saying whatever, and people just thought they were crazy. But now that social media is out and you can literally get in real time how the people feel about everything, it gives you a wake-up call as to what it is the people want and what it is you should be doing. But I think he comes from an era that doesn't operate in that realm or in that space. And so a lot of them are doing these very symbolic gestures, kind of. It was just like I saw some flyer a few weeks ago for some march Al Sharpton was doing. I'm like, y'all, these marches, all these symbolic marches, how much marching we gonna be doing, man? You don't feel some kind of way that you've been leading marches for like 40 years and we still marching about the same thing? That doesn't tell you something? Like, you know what I mean? Anyway. All right, I want to keep going. This is a stupid topic, but I did want to talk about it. The Maury show is out of here, y'all. He decided that this was going to be it. I didn't know he was in his 80s either. I thought he was in his late 70s, but he's like 83 or 84. For Maury, that's a good 83 or 84. I was like, okay, But anyway, what's interesting is, for me, like that was a show that's one of them shows that was in that rotation at grandma's house. Like you stay at your grandma's house and she'd have all the trash shows on. So like Jenny Jones, Sally Jesse Raphael, like Ricky Lake, Montel, all of those shows. And then it would be a court shows, Judge Mills Lane, Judge Judy, People's Court when the guy was still on it, Judge Joe Brown, all the different judge shows. And then you still had to watch the stories. So it was like Young and the Restless and what else used to come on? Something with the Day. Something with Day? I forgot what it was called. And Guiding Light and all them shows. But I remember Maury was right in the mix. And it was so funny because Maury literally had the same theme for every episode for like 20 plus years. It was just the You Are Not the Father show. Every week, You Are Not the Father. You Are Not the Father. I used to be like, dang. And I used to always wonder, for the babies that are now adults or old days of our lives, thank you. The babies that are now adults are old enough to go back and see this footage. So those who would have been babies in like the late 90s, early and mid 2000s, what happens when you go back and you look and you see the clip of your father on there chewing you out on the screen? You're getting fried up by your dad. Like, that baby ain't mine. Look at that nose. That nose is ugly. That baby ugly. My forehead ain't ever been that big. That baby got them eyes that are too far apart. That child ain't mine. Look at that long chin and that strong neck. That ain't my baby. Like, they do all that. And then, then ends up being the dad. And he's, I'm going to take care of mine, y'all. I'm going to be with you. We're going to ride or die together. Like, what does a child say when they look back and see what their dad says? And then I always thought it would make more sense because half the time it was never the dad. Why didn't they just bring the guy out first? The guy should have came out first and be like, listen, I'm being accused of, this, that, and the third. She's saying that I'm the father of this child. I don't think it's mine. We'll see what happens. And then they bring out the mom and then she has to prove that it's the baby. It was always like half the time it was never the father. The woman would come out there, fry him up. He's stupid. And then she tell all his business. And then he was this big. And I'm like, what that got to do with the baby? And he's something. They will tell all the business and everything. And the guy comes out and they boo him to death. And then he's not even the father. And then she comes back on for 5 more episodes. And ain't none of them the dad either. I used to be like, okay. But really, the episodes I liked specifically, I used to like the Out of Control Teens. Those were the best episodes. But they didn't always have a lot of them. That would be the ones where they would have like, the white girls from the suburbs that would come on there and they were the baddest. And, I smoke, I steal, I drink, I have sex, I sell drugs, I fight, I scam. What? Look at my body, blah, 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 blah. And they'd be like 12 and 13 and everything. And my mom is stupid. And when she tells me to do something, I slap her upside the head. And, so they come out here and they bring like 8 or 9 of them on the show, right? And they're all competing about who's the baddest. But what would get me is when it's time to bring out the boot camp instructor, they would all break down before they even made it to boot camp. That's the part that used to get me. Like, they'd be like, doing all of that. the boot camp guys come out, do all the hooting and hollering. It's kind of like this predates Beyond Scare Straight. By the way, I don't think that method of working with youth work, and I'm just saying that as somebody who works with kids. You can yell at them all you want. That's not going to change how they behave. Thank you, Faith First. Love your content and different perspectives. Thank you. And so, you know, they come out there just like yelling in the girls' faces. They're like right here yelling. The girls are backstage yelling too. And then here comes that energy start changing. The girls yell, and then here come the tears and they get to the crying and everything. They're having a whole meltdown and they have not even made it in the van to go to boot camp yet. I'm like, thought you was the baddest coming from North Dakota, Bismarck. You know what I mean? South Dakota, in Montpelier, Vermont. I thought you was the baddest. What happened? And then you'd see the montage of when they're in the boot camp. You know, they got to get up at like 5 in the morning and push-ups, and they got to scrub the floor with a toothbrush, and they got to run and do all this other stuff. And then, you know, by the time it's over, they come back to the show with a rose. They done wrote a letter to the mom, and I'm so sorry for, I'm just like, I thought y'all was the baddest. It used to make me want to go on the show just to see if I would break too. Because it's like, they can't touch you. They can't hit you. So, you know, let them do all the yelling. If I was one of them kids on there, I would just stand there and just look at them. So while the boot camp people are doing all the yelling, I'm just, and then I'm not getting in the van to go because you can't touch me and I'm not going. So Mom, we're getting in the car because you have to sign the waiver for me to go anyway. And I said, we're not going. So I'm not going. Like in my head, I just knew if I was one of the out of control teens, I would have been all right. But it makes me think of, remember the South Park episode when Cartman, he had saw the Maury show and they had an episode where there were the people who had like disabilities. And so Maury had gave them like the grand prize vacation. So he thought, you know, he could go on the Maury show and get a grand prize. So he went on one of the episodes where he's the out of control teen. So he goes on and he's like, Maury, out of control. Like, it's such a stupid show. But, that was so fun. That was like one of my favorite episodes. That and the Jennifer Lopez episode. But no, Jerry Springer, I forgot about that one. That was off the chain too. J Law said, yeah, black kids are already used to all the yelling and hitting. I would say that because me and my brother were polar opposites. Like, my parents didn't really whoop us that much. I was a scaredy cat anyway. Once I saw the belt, I was, all right, I'm tapped out. I'm just playing. Let me go ahead and vacuum and start cleaning up, whatever. My brother was a little bit more of a rebel, and my father and my mother were a little bit more old school. So they definitely didn't mind pop you upside the head and stuff. But my brother was a G because he wasn't scared of nothing. Like, he used to talk his trash, and I used to be like, okay. Because anytime he got in trouble, I just started cleaning up. Like, he started getting in trouble, I started vacuuming just because I don't want to hear nobody fussing with me about nothing else. I ain't doing nothing. Like, I had them parents where even if the house was clean, your homework was done, I don't know, you were knighted by the queen and the Pope kissed your hand and everything else. If you were relaxing and then mom and dad came in through the door, for some reason, it just triggered them when they would come in the door and you're laying down relaxing. They used to just get pissed. And so anytime we heard the garage door open, we would just get up and start finding something to do, or just get up and just start walking, just so you're not sitting down. Because my dad used to come in. It used to kill him. Like, there is no way you about to be in here relaxing. And I just came from work. You better find something to do. Like, man, so I used to just find stuff to do. All right, what else is on here? Oh, Paula Patton and that chicken. That's the stupid, man. I forgot. Yeah, y'all said Queen Latifah had a show. I remember that one. I remember the first show was better than the second show she had. The second show I didn't care for as far as talk shows, but the one she had in like 99, 2000 was okay. Like I said, I think on the last live, I think the reason Queen Latifah's show didn't make it, and the reason I don't think Drew Barrymore's show will make it, and Tamron Hall is almost on the chopping block, and some of these other, or Nick Cannon didn't make it, is they all have the same subject matter. It's just celebrity culture. And so it's not anything that really brings people in that are at home that would want to watch. I think the reason why talk shows worked back in the day is you had this whole demographic of stay-at-home moms and retirees, and so the content was geared towards them. A lot of these new shows are geared towards younger audiences, but we're at work, you know. And then we're just, and again, when all the shows have the same kind of content, you're not as interested. I think that's why some of those shows that are from the earlier eras lasted for so long, because they just gave you so much. But anyway, enough on that. As far as Paula Patton, somebody asked me to cover this. I was not about to talk about this because I thought this was stupid, but there's a viral clip of her frying chicken. And can I tell you, maybe one day I might have to start doing cooking videos on here. I think I'm a pretty good cook. You know, I think I'm pretty dope. She pulls out the chicken, right? She rinses it off for like half a second, and then she puts it in the bag with the flour, but there's no seasoning in the flour. She shakes it up, throws it in the grease, and I'm like, okay. It's gonna be some bland chicken. And she, mind you, this is supposed to be like the mom's recipe, apparently. I was like, okay. I'm like, I had to go Google what her mom looked like, and then it all made sense. So anyway, she puts it in there like she's frying it. Mind you, there's been no seasoning. It just literally was chicken dumped in the flour and in the grease. And then she brought out 3 seasonings, really 2, because paprika has no flavor. It just browns everything. Pepper and then Larry's seasoning salt. And she sprinkles that on the chicken while it's frying in the pot. Like, I'm like, what? And so I'm looking at, it's not going to stick to the chicken because one, it's already coated with the flour that's already being bubbled up with the grease. And so it's like all the seasoning is just going into the grease. And I'm like, what kind of chicken? Okay. And y'all ate her alive. And I know that grease like was probably like black as I don't know what, because when there's too much junk in the grease, it starts to get darker. And she already looks like she might have had it on too high. And you saw the chicken when it came out, the sides were like black. And then she got the nerve to post it and be proud. Like, I'm not gonna fry up anybody's cooking skills, but this is why don't invite me over for dinner if you cook. I don't be trusting everybody's cooking. Like, some people just don't need to do anything. I saw another clip, and this is not even as bad as Paula Patton. It's on Twitter. It's this white lady who she pickles or like jars chicken thighs. So she had this chicken thigh that was like pickled or in a jar sitting on the counter in a cabinet for 2 years. Like, she pickled it in 2020, right? I don't know if it was pickled or if it was just canned, but it's in a jar since 2020. Not in the fridge. Not, well, even and then it would have been bad. Not even the freezer. It still would have went bad by then. But it was just sitting out there in a jar, airtight. So 2 years later, she opens it with a little and everything like that. And then she takes the bone out of it because she's like, oh, the meat is just so tender because it's just been sitting and the bone just came right out. And then she puts it in like a bowl. She gives a few extra pieces to the dog. So the dog is eating it. I'm like, oh, girl, man, your dog is about to be dead in like 10 minutes. But anyway, so then she makes a chicken salad with this chicken. So she puts in the mayo and the relish and whatever and stirs it all up. It looks so nasty too, by the way. And then she puts it in the oven for like 5 minutes and takes it out. It's not even cooked thoroughly. And then she eats it. I said, she is going to be dead in like 3 minutes. I said that the nerve, like, don't invite me over for dinner if you cannot cook. And even if you think you can cook, send me a picture of what you made and how you made it, just to be sure before I go over there. Like, man, goodness. It's about as bad as like when people invite you over, but their house be dirty and they want you to take the shoes off before you step on their carpet. And you don't know if you're about to step on a needle or what. But anyway, goodness. All right, let me read some comments. That chicken salad thing, that was 10 times worse than the Paula Patton. I wasn't even mad about the chicken no more after I saw the chicken salad thing. That was the grossest thing. I don't even want anything that remotely looks like that at this point. I don't want seafood salad. I don't want potato salad. I don't want macaroni salad. I don't want any salad. If it's not just green vegetables with a little bit of something else, that's it. I don't want any of that. I'm good. It's on pause. That thing had my stomach hurting just thinking about it. And just the juices. And I can imagine what it smelled like. Like, oh, mm, 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 mm. I gotta wash that down. Mm. Jesus. Sorry. It got in my head. I started thinking about it. I hope she didn't invite nobody over. I want to sue and just say I ate over there because I know I'm gonna get some money. Like, I'm gonna just say I was there and I ate pickled. Fix it, Lord. Fix it. All right. Somebody said this is just as bad as the raisins in the mac and cheese. I didn't see that one, but I saw the mac and cheese where the woman had put like Brussels sprouts and carrots and stuff in it. And then mind you, I don't eat cheese already. Like, I don't do a lot of dairy. I'll eat ice cream because I'm in denial that I'm lactose intolerant. And so I'll still eat ice cream. But I just started eating ice cream when the pandemic started because we was all in the house and I was losing my mind for a little bit. And so because all the therapists were booked, I was like, well, let me eat some ice cream or something until some open up. And I still ain't got one yet. But yeah, ice cream, I'll do that. But cheese, I don't do. So I'll eat pizza every blue moon, but that's the only thing with cheese in it that I'll eat. And so I haven't had macaroni and cheese for years, but back in the day when I did eat mac and cheese, if it wasn't like baked where you could like literally cut it like a slice and like a square, I'm not eating it. So the one that I saw with the woman mixing it up with the carrots and the Brussels sprout, it was like creamy. And the worst, like if there's a cheese that I will not eat, it's any kind of cheese that has a creamy texture. It just grosses me out. I don't like queso. I don't like none of that. And even when I lived in Italy, and that's like cheese galore. And I remember we did a field trip to Asiago to the cheese factory, and it just grossed me out because they curate the cheese and let it mature, and they let the mold grow on the side for like 18 months, and then they wrap it up and mail it, and then you cut the mold off. I was like, I can't. I still remember the smell. I didn't even eat lunch that day. We brought our own lunches, but they also provided cheese just for fun to go with your lunch. I didn't even eat because the smell just, man, is the worst thing I can ever think. So nasty. Oh God, it was gross. I'm just thinking about it right now. And that's like 20 plus years ago. That crap was so nasty. Other people like that, but I've just never liked cheese. Cheddar I can almost work with, but like American cheese is trash. That's the those little Kraft single slice. I don't know how folks be eating that stuff. No judgment, do you? Um, let's pause for a second. Where are we at here? Somebody said her chicken was an abomination. I forgot to add that. Official BNA Music 88 said Paula was about to kill them kids at her son's school because she made a follow-up video. It was talking about, yeah, but my husband and my kids or whoever loves the chicken. And actually, I made it for my son's whole class. I was like, all them kids was sick. Everybody was throwing up in recess. Gonna come in there bragging about that. That's why I don't do potlucks either. I don't do potlucks. Like, I don't want to share. I'll sit in fellowship, but I'm not about to eat anything. Like, if it's not like some sealed ginger ale or something and I've seen it be opened and nobody's touched it, sure, I'll get that. But when folks come in there with them casseroles and stuff, I'm not doing it. Absolutely not. String bean casserole, absolutely not. Not doing it. Mm-mm. I need to be able to make out what's in it, unless I made it or I saw somebody make it and I trust their cooking. Thank you. Say yes, joyous. What does that say? Surabania is my first time catching Calvin's live. Shout out from Japan. What up, Japan? All right, that's cool. I told you we'd be global around here. Oh, you also talking about Jerry Springer. That one you kind of already knew was super fake though, but it was entertaining, I guess. Remember how it used to be like they used to catch so much backlash when it first started doing all the fights because this is back when everything was still very conservative on TV, and that used to just be too much for TV. They used to have all kind of movements and parent protests and FCC complaints and everything. Let's see. Geraldo Rivera, yeah, that's when he got hit in the face with that chair. Uh-huh. Ricky Lake. That might have been one. Out of all the trash talk shows from back in the day, I think we watched Ricky Lake the most in our house. Ricky Lake, my mom loved Montel for some reason. I think she just was attracted to him, but she liked the Montel show. But Montel was boring to me. The only time it was good is when Sylvia the Psychic was on there, even though half her predictions be wrong. Let me see what else is on here. Oh, or sometimes he'd have the episodes where the girls wanted to have a baby, but they were like 15 and they weren't ready to have children. And so they'd come on there with like a baby doll, like, see, I can take care of it. And then at some point, while they're arguing with somebody, they done threw the doll behind the chair. And then they passed the mic to the audience and, see, you said you want a baby, but look where you threw the baby. It's behind the seat. How are you going to be a mother? Something, something, something. And then the whole crowd starts clapping and now she's crying. Like, yeah. Oh, Ananda Lewis did have a show, Travis Simmons. I remember that. I hope she's doing well. I remember she was diagnosed with stage 3 breast cancer. Hopefully she's doing well, but she was gorgeous. I used to love Ananda Lewis because she used to work on BET back in the day, and then she was on MTV. There were like certain people that I used to think like her, Tatiana Ali, and Chili were all related because they all kind of had that similar look and hair texture. And she went to Howard too, so shout out to her. And the part that was even more sad is the chicken was still raw after being fried. That's Alan's comment. Yeah, because she didn't fry it long enough. You got to cook. You got to be. You're supposed to do that test either with a fork or a knife. Where you kind of poke and kind of see, and if the pink and all that is gone. Like if there's still pink in there, absolutely not. That's not how we do this. I'm telling you, I'm gonna start making cooking videos. I'd be kind of throwing down a little bit because when you live alone, you get to do a whole lot of tests and trials and everything. And even working with them kids, sometimes they've been my experiment for certain things. Nothing crazy, nothing wild. Just more so like when I make like desserts and stuff, they kind of get to be like the guinea pigs. I make a really bomb like French toast. I ain't gonna tell everything that's in it, but it's like super, super lit. If I ever decided to open a restaurant, that would be like the signature dish because I can really throw some stuff down with that. And I can make a really good snapper. I tear some snapper up. Snapper. Anyway. What? Webcams, chat, XYZ, hot girls and boys video chat. Don't be putting no porn on my video. We ain't doing that around these parts. Let's get them like spam accounts. Okay. Oh, thank you. I'm Every Woman for your 2024 presidential campaign. They would never let me run for no president. The way they would have me out. First of all, if I ever ran for office, which I won't be doing, so don't worry. First, they're gonna find this YouTube channel and they're gonna dissect everything on here and they're gonna make a bunch of sound bites and take words out of context. And by the time that commercial airs, you're gonna think I've called for, all out, get your guns and let's go and kill a certain specific group of people. Let's just get it done. They're gonna think I'm some crazy lunatic. So nah, I'm good. And then they're gonna try to dig up all my family and everything else and go after everybody. I'm not built for that. But I would not mind like getting behind a candidate that I really supported. I just haven't found one yet that I'm really like excited about. And like I've always said, you should not be a fan of a politician. They're there to work for us. So yes, you can support them. And when they get in office, you hold them to what it is they said they're going to do. And even if you voted for them, it's not a marriage. It's not you endorsing everything that they do. It just recognizes that in the moment when you had a choice to make, you felt that that candidate best represented what it was you thought they would be able to do. So once they're not doing it, yeah, give them the smoke. People, I think, are too often locked into the space where it's either this or that. So once you vote for whatever candidate, then you receive all the smoke of all their flaws, which I don't always agree with, but it is what it is. Somebody said Tyra Banks show was corny. I didn't really watch her show like that. I've seen a few episodes, but I never watched Tyra. I wish my friend Tanae was on here. She'll remember this one. The Tyra episode I remember for sure was this was when I was in college because they thought this was the funniest episode. It was like this really, really bougie family. Like, thank you, Sexy Alley Cat. Sending love from Calvin. Appreciate your wisdom. Thank you. It was this really bougie black family that was on there. Like this woman is on there and she was on there to gas up her daughter and the mother-in-law was there. So it's like, oh, my daughter, she's just amazing. She's off to school. She's just doing so many great things. She volunteers. She's in the church. She blah, 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 blah. Little does mom know, the daughter's on there to tell her that she dropped out of school and she's a stripper now. And so the daughter comes out there and she's like, Mom, I'm no longer in school and I'm actually a dancer. And so the mom, all that boots, what? And so she starts trying to whisper, but the mics pick up everything. Oh my God. Oh, hell to the no. Are you crazy? Are you crazy? You take off your clothes and dance for pocket change? And then the mother-in-law doesn't really think it's a bad thing. So she's like, are you being safe? And so the mom was like, Cheryl. Like, it was the funniest thing because the mom like was really trying to keep her composure and do the respectability thing, but she wanted to like strangle her daughter. It was the funniest thing. You are spoiled. You want for nothing. We have given you everything. What's wrong with you? What is wrong with you? Like, that was the funniest episode. I was like, okay. Between that and then that clip that used to go viral on Twitter where it was Patti LaBelle on there with the white woman that was like doing the microaggressions. That's a funny clip. Anyway, yeah, Tyra I couldn't get to. She was really into herself a lot. And so it would just be interesting with some of the things that they would do on there. And so you constantly see like all the clips on social media now. And so I'm like, okay, interesting, but entertainment. But anyway, I'm gonna skip that topic just because I want to start winding down. I am versus doubt, like I've said for the longest. However, actually, I'm not even gonna be able to get it because I'm visiting my mom that weekend. But Versus is doing a Mother's Day, or not Mother's Day, Easter special. It's more so gospel. So it's Mary Mary and BB and CC Winans, which I actually do want to see because I like both of them a lot. I'm gonna be on the road, I think, by the time it would air, but we'll see how it goes. Yeah, Versus still gets on my nerves, but CC Winans is one of my favorite vocalists. Like, to be honest, I play her to bring me here because for some reason her voice is very soothing and calming. And I think she has one of the most beautiful tones and textures ever. So I love her music and I like her work with BB Winans as well. And then like they just have some hits. Like even Jingle Bells goes in. Like I like their version of Jingle Bells. I liked I'm Lost Without You, which is my favorite. There's this really good clip of them on Regis and not Kelly, who was Regis and Kathy from back in the day. And they're singing I'm Lost Without You on the piano. It's just, it's so good. I love them. And of course, Mary Mary, they have a lot of different gems. I always joke around. I always say like The God in Me is everybody's favorite song, but I think that's just because it sounded like Blame It on the Alcohol. So I used to mix it together. It's the God in my alcohol. And then you just ask for forgiveness. But that's back when there was a bunch of songs that all had that same sound at the same time. So it was like, not Salt and Pepper. SWV had a song, Better Than I. LaToya had a song. I forgot what the Toy song was, but maybe it was better. All of them they all had a song that sounded like Blame It on Alcohol. It's the God in Me. But yeah, I did like that sound. But no, I like them. That'll be a lot of fun to watch. Yeah, we'll see how that goes. Somebody was asking me about the situation with the Grammys and the reggae group that won over the actual reggae groups that were from Jamaica. the Grammys are the Grammys. I have no expectations. I didn't even watch the Grammys, to be honest. Because when I saw who was lined up to perform, I wasn't interested in probably any of them. So I was like, yeah, I don't want to watch that. But I did kind of just look at the highlights and everything. So congrats to those who did win. But yeah, the Grammys have always been the Grammys, and we know what the industry does. They will always replace, the originals to kind of put who they want to be the image of a specific sound for. You know what I mean? And so we've seen that happen a million times. But it is what it is. I just some certain things I don't have an expectation for, so I don't get disappointed when they do exactly what I figured they would do. You know what I mean? Um, Let me see here. Let's go through some comments. All right, well, who's blowing me up really quick? Yeah, we'll get to you later. All right. Somebody says I would still vote for you. Thank you. I appreciate that, but yeah, I'm not built for politics. I don't have the poise they would want me to have. They get rid of me so fast because I'd be up there frying up everybody. And listen, as far as Will Smith, that I think really some of the folks that should have been slapped are some of these folks in charge. That's who I want to see get slapped. I ain't gonna say no names, but there's a few of them I would love to freaking slap on the House floor and the Senate floor. Whack! Just do like Bernie Mac and head of state. When he got off the train, just was crack everybody. Man, there's some folks out. Woo. Yeah, that's who need to get slapped around here. You worried about Chris Rock? Anyway, thank you. Say yes, Joyce. Forget Poise. We need to change the face of politics. I agree. Even Jim Carrey jumped in that. And Marie, you're right. Even he had something to say about that. I'm like, oh, doing a lot. Anyway, oh, T.I. I almost forgot about him. All right, somebody asked me my thoughts on that. One, T.I. is not really my kind of person, to be honest. I've had smoke for him for a long time. And I think the icing on the cake was when he was obsessed with, the daughter's virginity, and he would take her to the clinic to get checked to make sure she was still a virgin. And we had a whole video about agency and recognizing that as a father, your daughter should feel secure when you're around, not feel invaded. But anyway, he's always kind of I've just never really been on the T.I. train, not since high school. I liked his music when I was a teenager, but everything he does just irritates me. And he's someone who presents himself to be like super intelligent, but he's just always in the way, just doing dumb stuff. Even like in regards to COVID, what did he say? Just drink hot liquid and it's gonna burn the germs out. I'm just like, shut up. But there was a clip where he was at a comedy show, because he's been doing comedy lately, and he was at a comedy show. There was a woman doing her comedy set. Somehow, I didn't watch all the clips because I got annoyed and turned it off. Somehow it got into the subject of her saying something in response to the allegations that have been made against him. And then he pretty much comes on the stage and somebody gave him a mic, which I'm like, if there's one comedian already doing their set, why would you as the soundboard operator even give another person the mic to confront them while they're doing their set? Like, y'all are doing a lot now. But anyway, so he has a mic and the two of them are going back and forth at it about a bunch of different things. And he's walking all up on the girl and whatever else and chewing out. And the thing is, I'll say this as somebody who works with kids. I can always tell when the kids are guilty of whatever they're being accused of because they do the most as soon as the accusation comes out. Usually, if you haven't done something and somebody makes that accusation, you don't normally just jump straight to level 10 right off the bat. Unless that accusation has been made tons and tons and tons and tons and tons and tons and tons of times, and you're tired of defending yourself, and then you finally break. That's the one time you might spaz out. But his response just reminds me of when the kids do something they're not supposed to do, and it's like, "Oh, Mr. Michael, so and so did whatever." No, I didn't. No, I'm like, "Yeah, you did. Go in there and sit down. Just go in there and sit down. I'll be in there in a minute." Like they give themselves away. Like that's the same energy he had in that clip that I saw. Now apparently they have made up and talked it out, but I just was off the chain. Ti, you just made yourself look more guilty, in my opinion, of everything that's being put out there. Just a lot. And then even as far as these comedians that are all claiming they don't feel safe on the stage anymore, please cut the crap. Now, I haven't done a comedy show since like 2015 or 16, maybe 2017, one of those 2 years. That's some bull crap. Nobody is out to attack and assault and berate comics. Comics have always been heckled, but the idea of comics being afraid, like, oh, we're going to get attacked and get jumped. No, most of the time, if that does happen, it's because you done said something out of pocket to somebody in the audience because maybe they heckled you and you responded in a way that they didn't like. But that doesn't normally happen. So even when Cheryl Underwood was like, "Oh, I'm afraid to do my comedy shows now." Cheryl, I'm just saying, as somebody who, when I started doing comedy, like when you first start in comedy, you don't just get to book all the big stages and do all the features. You have to do whatever stage will even allow you to get 2 or 3 minutes. Now, me, my style of comedy has always been storytelling. And so that used to be hard for me because, I'm long winded and don't know how to shut up. And so I'd have to figure out how to squeeze a set in 2 and 3 minutes. But when you first get into comedy, you're doing a lot of open mic nights until you get enough recognition, and then people will give you a feature. Things have changed now because social media has blown up. So a lot of people who blow up on Instagram or TikTok or Twitter or even Vine from back in the day, you can kind of sometimes jump the line and get features now. But when I first started, all that wasn't really out. Well, Twitter was out, but Instagram wasn't out yet. But anyway, you would have to just get on whatever stage you could get on. So there were so many times where I was on a stage that literally, like, I think I said this one time, I was at like a biker gang show. Like, it was me, the only black person in a room full of like white bikers, white lesbians with their red leather vests and red mohawk buzz cuts. And I'm like, okay, let me do this show and see how this one goes. Like, there were so many different whatchamacallit. There were so many different venues I had to perform at before I started getting actual features when I was like in Washington State. And you just had to go with any kind of crowd. And I have never felt in danger. I felt that, okay, I'm going to have to read this audience properly and recognize that certain jokes are not going to connect with this kind of crowd. But I've never felt that, I was in danger. And mind you, I'm already a smaller frame person. I'm like 5'8", 150 pounds. And at the time, I was like 120. All right. So, if I really piss somebody off, they could probably really bust me upside the head. And so, again, people are exaggerating in response to the Will thing. I'm like, y'all all of a sudden, comedians were under attack. Well, if you do comedy, the thing with comedy, and it's funny because when I did comedy, I used to never use profanity. If I ever jump back into it, I'll probably be up there cussing like a sailor, to be honest, because I like to cuss. But, if the kind of comedy you do is the kind that constantly has to go after specific people, just expect the energy they're going to give back to you if they don't like what you said. And that's all it is to it. You know what I mean? Anyway, is my sound out? I keep hearing people saying sound. Calvin, if you see this, we didn't hear any of that. Oh, damn. Is it still cutting out? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? I don't know what I said. No wonder y'all all dropped down. Refresh this working. Okay, y'all can hear me. My bad. I don't know what that was about. The internet, once you start talking real stuff, they be trying to get you out of here. Long story short, I don't know how much y'all missed, but I pretty much just said that in my years of doing comedy, I never felt in danger. I never felt that somebody was going to break my neck because they didn't like what I said. And even when I had hecklers, I was always quick on my feet. And whatever joke I would respond back with, it was something that wouldn't make somebody get pissed off even more. They kind of say like, okay, we see where he's coming from. We'll leave him alone because he's ready. But anyway, it is what it is. Somebody was asking me about, oh my God, Sierra and Russell Wilson and them. Listen, let them have their relationship. Like, I don't understand why so many people are always going after Russell and Sierra. Listen, that's them, and they have built what they have built for them, and it is what it is. Like, she ain't been with Future in how many years, and she's been married to Russell for how long? Y'all gonna have to let that go. Like, this is why I think too many people got podcasts. Like, there's a whole bunch of podcasts that are out that all have the same subject matter, and they all do the same thing. And it's just like the same kind of nonsense and the same regurgitated speaking points. I'm like, how many times are you going to say the same thing? In my opinion, Russell Wilson doesn't bother anybody. He takes care of his business, takes care of his family. And there's that. Sierra minds her business. She does her little events and does what she does. And that's it. So why are y'all so pressed about what they got? That's done. Y'all aren't in that relationship. Let them have what they have. And so you keep seeing like, people, well, Russell Wilson is soft or he's lame or he's this. In my opinion, I think Sierra just got tired. Like, look who no disrespect, but look who she had been dating. Bow Wow, 50 Cent, Future. I'm sure they took her through a whole bunch of nonsense. So she finally found somebody that was a little bit more stable and easygoing, and that's what she's into. So yeah, maybe back in the day, she was attracted to men that had a bit more oomph. But I guess after you hit a certain age and you have certain things you want for yourself, you don't want that anymore. Everybody has something that's different. Everybody has something they're attracted to. Some people are going to like somebody that's a little bit more easygoing. Some are going to like some people that are more rough around the edges or whatever. But who cares? Y'all all in them people's relationship. Thank you, Yossi. I'm so happy I caught a live. I love the content. Keep doing what you're doing. Thank you. I don't understand the obsession. And I'm sorry, Future got like 509 kids. Do y'all really want them two back together? She tried when she was there. She tried to make a coalition with all the babies' mamas. It was like 5 or 6 of them trying to create a club and everything. It ain't work. It is what it is. From what I understand, Future does what he needs to do for his kids, and she does what she needs to do for the son that they have together, and it is what it is. This is some rich people stuff. I don't know why we're in their business. Let rich people deal with their rich people stuff. It is what it is. Like, goodness, it's like the lamest people got the most to say about people that are happy. Let people live their lives. Who cares? Anyway, that's why, because some people had asked me before this. I don't remember the name of the podcast because somebody asked me what my thoughts were about it. It's one of those podcasts with like the super lame guys that are just like super into their ego, and so because they have nothing else going for them, all they can do is like talk down on everybody. Like, I feel like a podcast should make you feel good when you get off of it, or you learn something. Everybody has what they're into, but I've seen some really lame people with big platforms just saying any and everything. Idiots. Which kind of ties into the interview I saw with Donald, or I read with Donald Glover, which I thought was really stupid as well. I saw pretty much he does this interview where he's interviewing himself, but he gets on this subject about, like, I guess his experience with Black women, and he goes in this whole spiel about, based on how he grew up, he was nerdy and whatever, and he couldn't. Well, he didn't specifically say that, but that's kind of the narrative he's giving, and you hear that from a lot of people. He couldn't necessarily, fit in because he was different, or he liked anime, or he was goofy, and so he just didn't fit in. I hate when people do that, and I say that because I feel like I've had a very similar experience. In high school, I was not going to be the guy that all the girls were, breaking their necks for. I was kind of the goofy, funny guy that was skinny, that could dance and was talented and was kind of a bookworm, but I got along with everybody, and it never really affected dating. I could still date, but I wasn't going to be the person everybody was after. And I never saw that as a reason to say, well, all of a sudden I don't like Black girls because I wasn't swagged out enough for them. And so, because it's interesting that most of the people who use those kind of narratives, they either go with an Asian or a white girl, and then there's that. And then it's funny because then they'll do the most pro-Black content, and still, when you wake up next to who you wake up to, I'm just like, okay, no judgment, do what you do, but interesting. So when people kind of make that experience, I think that's nonsense, because I think it limits the scope of how you see your own collective, and you assume that people who look like you only behave a certain way, and when you don't behave in the way that you believe everybody behaves, you paint yourself to be the exception and the exemption, and you try to paint yourself as like the super talented, exceptional Negro. And I don't buy into that. Like, that's some bull crap. I think you'd have to expand your scope of how you see yourself and how you see your collective, and recognize that with any Black collective, we all come from various spaces and experiences, and we have so many different ways of doing things. And I've always said Black people are not a monolith. The only thing that's monolithic about our experience is anti-Blackness. And so when people come and do that whole spill about, oh, I didn't fit in, and the Black people didn't think I was cool, and I had to sit at the white table, that's you. That's how you were rooted at home and how y'all did things. And you chose to seclude yourself, and you gave up and just said, forget it, and decided you're going to align with whoever else. And it is what it is. So no, I don't buy into that. Especially if you're going to have a show like Atlanta, which is supposed to be this pinnacle of Black entertainment. I would expect that you kind of be a little bit more diplomatic, or just cautious of what it is that you put out there. You got to remember who the demographic is that's supporting your content. But whatever. Is the audio still tripping? How much longer did I turn this thing up? I don't know. Anyway, but as far as Atlanta, I did watch the new season. The first episode was hard to sit through because it's very, the first episode kind of revisits the Devontae Hart situation. We've talked about that a million times. And that's the one that still bothers me. That's the one about the 5 kids that were adopted by the white couple, the 2 women. And then eventually the couple drove off the cliff with the kids in the car, and they still haven't found some of the bodies. Absolutely terrible. But in his episode, it has a happier ending where, they escape, which is, that's what we wish could have happened. But that was a rough episode to sit through. But man, I still get triggered by that. Remember, I told you guys that time I referenced, this is before he and the siblings had even been killed. This is just when the picture of him had gone viral with him and the free hugs. And I talked about it in one of the videos. And then a friend of the parents responded and did this whole dissertation about they didn't like what I said and how I made them feel. And Devontae's just a sweet young boy, and he loves to give people hugs. He just, when you see him, he just runs to give you a hug. And I'm okay. And then a year later, the whole family dead. Okay. Man. I don't know why the audio is dropping out for some of you guys. I don't know what's going on. It might be YouTube. I don't know. But anyway, we're about to wind down anyway. So let's see. Do I have anything else I want to cover? Oh, like 2-3 more things. Somebody was asking me my 2 cents on the Trey Songz and Usher Little Beef. Some people were trying to make a comparison between the two of them. It's not close. I don't even know why that was a thing. And one, they're not from the same era. And I kind of referenced this conversation in my So It Happened video with Usher. Some of you guys keep asking when the next one is. I'm working on Tony, man. Tony's kicking my behind because it's supposed to be the heat through More Than a Woman. But because the More Than a Woman era lasted for a week, I decided to incorporate Libra as well. So this is an even bigger video than what I wanted to do, but it'll be here. Give me a minute. I got a whole lot going on in life at the moment. But yeah, Usher versus Trey. I prefer Usher. Trey has some songs I like, but Usher has albums that I like, and Usher's a better performer in my opinion. I've seen both live. Trey does give a decent show, but Usher, he's on another level. It's not even close. No disrespect to Trey, and his artistry, but I just think I don't even know why they made that comparison. Yeah. Anyway, some people had asked me my thoughts on Tracy Braxton. That was really sad. I love the Braxtons and Tracy. One, I just think it's hard if you have like 5 or 6 siblings and you guys are always used to doing everything together, and then one is gone. I can't imagine how that feels. And they did, they kept all of this private. None of us knew anything. People just saw the wedding photo of Tracy and her son at the wedding, and she did look a lot smaller. And that's all we got. But that was really sad. Hopefully the family can work it out. I know they're having disagreements about how everything is happening, and some people prefer that people are a bit more open with their illness. But I think with illness, sometimes it's mentally draining. And even though sometimes you may want to share, sometimes people don't want to share because then when they run into other people who know about it, it's the first thing that's brought up to them every time they're seen. And sometimes people don't want to be reminded of what it is they're dealing with at that moment. Everybody's different. It's kind of like, I appreciate like the emails and the posts and stuff I get on social media, but a lot of people send me what they want me to talk about. And so, you get a lot of emails where you open the clip and there's somebody hanging from a tree. Calvin, you gonna talk about this? And I'm just like, it's Tuesday morning, it's 7 a.m. and this is the first thing that I just saw. You know what I mean? So everybody just has their own way of doing things, but I think it's really, really sad. I really like that family. I love the Braxtons. So hopefully everything works out for them. And again, cherish people while they're here, because you just never know. And it seems like we keep losing so many great ones. And even with Tracy's music, I thought her first album was actually really, really nice. The song I really liked was The Needed in My Life. I thought that was a really nice song. If there's any song that I'd recommend out of her catalog, it would be that one. That was the one I really, really liked. I like that more than Last Call. I didn't get a chance to hear her second project like that, but I like Tracy because she's from the DMV too. So she was fun. But anyway, let's see. I think that's all I'm going to do. So we'll hang for a few minutes before I go to bed, because my hours have changed for the week and I got to be up at 6. And I go to Norfolk tomorrow right after work. So it's like I go to work and then get on the road and drive 3 hours. And hopefully traffic is not terrible, because if you're in DC and as soon as you get on 95, you're sitting in traffic until you get past Fredericksburg. And then when you get on, I forgot what that next road is, whatever that side road is, then you're in more traffic. So, all right, so we'll do a few comments, then I'm going to call it a night. Andre Sante said, the Sierra Russell Future Talk is just an example of people seeing women as an extension of their partners and not their own people. She's Future's ex instead of an individual. That's really how a lot of the commentary sounds. And almost that idea of thinking once somebody has been with somebody, they own them. And even if they break up, it's still theirs, kind of. Depends on who it is. Let's see. Casey Johnson said, the podcast give them power and clout most of these lames have never had before. And that's the other thing. They come on there just so big-headed, and then you hear some of these takes, and they're just so horrible. I'm like, we all can't be this far off the Richter. Like, what? It is what it is. Everybody's going to be into what they're into, but man, you know what I mean? It's just, there's a lot of crazy content out there. It is what it is. Get into what it is you're into. Oh, Akira 34. And don't forget, it covered the flooding of the Black Towns. I forgot about that. Yeah, Lake Lanier. Is it in Atlanta? I know it's in Atlanta metro area, but that's the lake where it was an entire Black establishment that was there. And they decided they wanted to have their man-made lake, and so they flooded out the land and just created a man-made lake over an entire establishment. And so it's interesting because Lake Lanier is always in the news because somebody's always dying in that lake all the time. Every time somebody get over there, somebody's dying. When they had the little Trump boat or whatever thing, the boats was catching on fire and stuff in the water. Everybody who lives in Atlanta knows don't go to Lake Lanier. Like, just don't go there. It's like the Bermuda Triangle of the South, Man. But it's interesting when you start digging into America's history and looking at a lot of the black establishments that were, demolished or destroyed to create other things. You start seeing all kinds of things. A lot of people know about Seneca Village, which is now Central Park. That was a whole black establishment. They went and gutted all that out and built right over it. And there's just so many places that have been either repurposed or flooded out or burned out or whatever, because America has such a terrible history. So, it is what it is. That's why they don't want you learning any of it. And they keep trying to, take everything out of the schools. I'm like, you can't stop people from learning because the internet's here. That's the funniest thing. You can snatch everything you want to snatch in regards to CRT or whatever, but these kids are not that naive and they understand what's happening in the world and they have access to the internet and they're all on TikTok all night, all day. And so they're getting whole world history lessons from TikTokers that are exposing all kinds of things. So y'all are a little too late to the game. It's kind of like when the music industry decided to respond to illegal music downloading, but they were too late already. And so the cat was out of the bag. And so that's how we ended up getting streaming, because digital purchases they weren't enough to keep up with the illegal downloading. So they said, forget it. People don't value music in the same realm. Let's just go to streaming, because at least if they can pay for a subscription, they have access to all the music they want. So it kind of works, but the revenue's no longer there. And so that's why you're seeing the demise of now digital sales as well as physical. And that's why at this point you can have a #1 album in the country that sells 20,000 copies, as opposed to just a few years back people were selling 2 and 3 and 400,000 copies depending on who they are. But we know album sales are no longer the threshold of measurement with music anymore anyway. It's kind of streaming. But with streaming, the threshold of success continues to change, because there's no real way to authentically, verify what streams are actually natural, because you have streaming farms, whole rooms where people have just tons and tons of devices that are out there and they specifically just have a song on repeat, and so you have these artists that get hundreds of millions of streams and then they can't sell out a concert. Interesting. All right. SF said Usher and Trey have beef. No, they do not have beef. Somebody just randomly made like a Twitter conversation and they're, oh, let's compare the two. And then folks are really trying to pretend that somehow Trey had something on Usher as far as being an entertainer. We're not doing that. We're not. I do like Trey though. He has some songs I like. My favorite Trey song was Role Play. Role Play, Just Wanna Cut. I did like Smartphones. He had a few I like. Oh, gotta leave or gotta go right now. I like that one too. But yeah, they're not even comparable. I don't know where that came from. All right, let's see. Didn't Usher's stepchild die in Lake Lanier? I remember the child died. I don't know if it was Lake Lanier. I remember it was the boating accident with the one thing. I don't know if it was Lake Lanier, but yeah. I told my mama not to go there one time because her fiance are like, oh, we're gonna go on a date to the lake. And I'm like, ain't too many lakes in Atlanta, Mom. Make sure it's not Lake Lanier. Don't go over there. Don't even get in the water. I don't even want you sitting on the dock of the bay, because I don't know, something might grab your foot and pull you in. Just no. But she was going somewhere else. Okay, it's Oscarville, Georgia. Lake Lanier. Okay, all right, cool. Interesting. Simply C100 said, my daughter loves your comedically hard-headed podcast. We listen to them during our morning commute. I need to make a new one soon, because I think the last one came out in January. Thank you for that, Simply C. I love the podcast. It's fun because it kind of brings out the fun side. Like, for people who have not listened to my podcast, it's just storytelling. I'm not on there cussing people out and talking politics. It's literally just retelling different things that happen in life. And so it's more of a funny approach where it's just people just need some comedic relief sometimes. And so that's what it's become. Um, um, all right, we're almost done here because I need to go to bed. What up, Lindsay? I'm gonna look at your email, Lindsay. I got it. I just have not checked it out yet. Lindsay does music. And I think we've shouted her out as well. So yeah, I got your email. I'm gonna definitely listen when I get a chance. I just, like I said, my work schedule changed this week, so I've been all over the place. And yeah, there's some life decisions that I'm making, and I'm still on the fence about. So we'll see what happens in the next few weeks. Just wish me luck. Um, let's see. All right, we are almost done here. Somebody said, Spoken Wisdom said there's been over 200 drownings. Yeah, people think the lake is cursed. They think, again, you do some messed up stuff to a whole community, then spirits be floating around. All right. Hey Calvin, how did you feel about Ashanti getting a damn Hollywood star when so many talented icons have yet to? And please don't give the politically correct version. People pay for the Hollywood star. Like you don't get nominated. Well, I don't know if you get nominated, but I do know you pay to get it. And there's a lot of people who get the star anyway. Some people who don't. From what I understand, I gotta go and research. I don't want to just be on here and be wrong, but I do know that you pay for the star. I don't know if you're recommended for it and then you just pay for the actual star and they put it in, or if it's more so you pay to get nominated. I don't know how the whole thing works, but I mean, Ashanti was never my entertainer. She was cool. I had a friend that used to love her in high school, and I used to be like, all right, she got some songs I like. Rain on Me was the song I rocked with. That's the one Ashanti song I really go hard for. She just wasn't my type because I think at the time that she arrived, I just had I had a higher expectation for entertainers. And so I could only get so much of the you, me, my hair, my skin, you, me, my hair, my skin moves at every performance with the oiled up legs. I could only do so much of it. But she's actually really nice. I met her in person before. Even though her assistant got on my nerves, he was one of them rude, messy folks because he didn't want to. I don't take pictures. First of all, sir, it is 2014. I'm not trying to be rude, but be happy that somebody's even in a space to want to ask for a picture right now because it's not 2002. So bring your ego way down. But yeah, she was really, really nice. And like I said, I think if I had a favorite album, hmm. I like the Braveheart album. It was all right. And Chapter 2 had a few songs on there I liked. I wasn't into her like that, but I like her personality. I just wasn't into her music like that, but she was cool for what it was. And I just always remember that BET Awards where this is when she was still kind of at her peak, but it was slowing down a bit. And remember, Beyonce had just performed. I talked about this in one of my R&B is Dead videos, and that was back when YouTube let you have the annotations where I used to like point to the screen and a link would pop up, but YouTube took them down. So I'm sure if you watch those now, it's just me pointing, but there's nothing to point to. But anyway, Beyonce had just did her Beyonce thing, like dancing on her name and spinning her head and, and all that crap. And then Ashanti went on a few songs later and she just had the PowerPoint graphic in the back and, did the you, me, my hair, my skin. And I was like, oh. And I love the remix of the song she did, but oh well, it is what it is. And Ashanti fans, don't come on here trying to fight me. I said she cool. She just wasn't my thing. But she's gotten a lot better as a vocalist, in my opinion. I think she got smoked because people questioned her tone. I think she spent a lot of years working on the craft, especially as a live performer, and she got a lot better in comparison to the past. But she was cool. Okay, I know Carrie's like, that was too diplomatic. That's not what I asked for. But no, there's a whole bunch of people that got Hollywood stars from what I remember. But I feel like you pay for them. Like I know you definitely have to pay to get them. So it's not like they just say, here, you're gonna get one. Come to the, whatchamacallit. $40,000. Eric Williams says they paid $40,000 for it. I wouldn't have no start in it unless I'm rolling in the dough. I ain't pressed for it. I can't wait to hear Calvin's playlist for the wedding day. Boy, the songs he'll have. Listen, I've never wanted a wedding. I mean, it wouldn't be up to me, but I'd probably do a reception because I just think weddings are expensive for no reason. Like I'd rather spend that money on like the down payment for the house, and we can like do something real subtle. But I've never been the one to envision like some super huge wedding and you got the 20 groomsmen and the bridesmaids and I've never saw that for myself. I see myself being married, but the wedding was never a part of the picture. But I guess maybe that's because guys don't normally care about the wedding. But no, the playlist is gonna be lit. It's gonna be a good time. All right, we about to be in there cranking. All right. All right. I'm getting off in exactly 3 minutes because I need to go to bed. And people, you might not can't tell from this angle, but I go to the gym every morning before work since February, and it's been kicking my behind. But it's kind of dope because I'm in there with the senior citizens, so I don't got to worry about feeling inadequate in the gym because everybody in there is already broke up. So we all broke up together. Much love, no disrespect. Because when you go to the gym, it like the peak hours and it's all the muscle heads in there, you be feeling so inadequate. I'm like, here we go, in there, and I'm on here on the little, I use all them assisted machines. I don't like using anything that don't got some kind of string or wire to make sure I don't throw my back out of alignment, because I ain't trying to hurt myself trying to do too much. So you be in there doing whatever little machine you're doing, and you just hear the dude lifting like 800,000 pounds or something. I'm just okay. I don't turn my music up. They growling too loud in my good ear. And anyway, Ms. Noodle said all of A. Marie's music is nice. She makes really nice music. I really like especially the Rich Harrison albums, but even her albums after Rich Harrison. I didn't care for the two projects she dropped recently, but even the Love and War and Because I Love It were decent albums to me. Yeah, because I think they show that she could still make decent music without Rich Harrison. It's kind of like Toni Braxton and Libra. Like Libra, and one of my friends was just saying this yesterday. Like Libra is kind of an album that showcases that Toni was able to create a musical identity outside of Babyface. We know her classics come from, working with him, but Libra, in my opinion, is one of her strongest albums. So, she was able to pull it off. I'm going to close out. People keep saying merch. Again, this shirt, I'm not selling anything. It's just one of the subscribers, Jason, this is Peace and Greetings YouTubers. He also made a few other ones too. He just really thought it was really dope for me to like have some, shirts that kind of align with the brand. And so his Instagram handle is My Superhero Tees. I'm not selling anything, but if he wants to sell some for his business, go right ahead, and you can check out what he has. He has a bunch of stuff he sells. So it's apparel, it's different gadgets, I think backpacks and wallets and all kind of different things. And then his daughter has a business as well. I want to believe it. I want to say it's My Perfect Brown. I might have said it wrong. I probably said it wrong. Oh, I Am Perfect Brown. I always get that wrong. But so yeah, that's what him and his daughter have. Yeah. Somebody said backyard wedding. Well, shoot, DC, ain't nobody got no backyards around here. We all paying too much money for these stupid high risers. I'm ready to own, y'all. I'm ready to own. My neighbors be getting on my nerves. Y'all already know I be always ready to go to war with the ones next door. They fight every night. It's been kind of quiet lately. And the worst part is like this guy is older that moved. He got to be in like his 60s. So I can't fight him because he got old man strength. Old people are strong for some reason. It's the oppression. They just got extra muscles from somewhere, from running from bricks and stuff from back in the day. And so I know I'm not going to fight him because I'm going to lose. But man, every night, and he and whoever he be cussing out, they go at it at like 2 and 3 in the morning. And my bedroom is against their, so like my bedroom is behind this, what you see, so on this wall. So my bedroom matches his living room. So like the neighbor over there, that behind that wall is their bedroom. So that's why I moved my recording studio over here. Because at first I was gonna be petty because I didn't like them either, and I was gonna have all the subwoofers and everything facing that wall and doom, doom, doom. And I make a lot of up tempo, so we was gonna be in here cranking and thumping all night. But I was like, you know what? Let me not be petty and let me put everything on this side. But man. Somebody said, still hate your neighbors when they own, they're just more permanent. That's true, but I would hope to get a single family home that's not connected where the walls are touching, so I can at least, it's not as annoying. You get a little bit of space. One of my friends has a really, really dope house they got in Suitland. They just have this huge yard for no reason. Like they can put a guest house in the yard. They got like such a good deal with the house, but it's just perfect. And it's like perfect for me because I love to be around people, but I also like to be secluded sometimes. I love the wilderness. I'm a mother nature kind of person. I love to be around water and trees, and I like random animals walking around. When we lived in Washington, if you did not put up a fence, you would always have deer and sage hens walking in your yard, in your backyard, like where we lived. Like there used to be sage hens just walking around in the backyard. I used to think it was so cool. There'll be wild rabbits. Like I love all of that kind of stuff. And so, yeah, I love the house that they have because it's in the perfect location. They got a lot of space. It's good for them. I love going to their house. We be over there all the time. They got like that big old, and they got a real fireplace, like a real one with you put the wood in it, and then just you hear the crackle. Like I need all of that. So yeah, I'm ready to own. But I'm not going to buy anything right now because the housing market is crap and everything is too high. I hate to say this, but I'm waiting for the housing market to go ahead and crash, and then I'll buy when things are more affordable because it's way too high. I'm not paying that much to own right now. So I'll just continue to pay this overpriced rent instead. Man. Somebody said, don't buy with the HOA. Very important. Let me tell you how smart my parents are. So the neighborhood we grew up in had one. My parents ran to be the officers for the HOA so they didn't have to deal with, because them HOAs, they have all kind of things they do on purpose sometimes. Some of them can work really well if the neighbors are not doing the most, and it's more so everybody's on the same page. But sometimes those HOAs are specifically to ensure that certain groups of people don't thrive in certain neighborhoods. And if they, go against whatever, you put the lien on their house and you kick them out. But my parents actually became, the heads of the HOA. So we never had any smoke because everybody kind of agreed on everything in that neighborhood. And so there wasn't a lot of drama. They were smart because this one lady was ready to run for it. My mom and dad were like, nope. And so they ran on a ticket. I didn't even know you could run on a couple's ticket for HOA. And yeah, so that was smart for them. Now the neighbors didn't like us. Somebody used to keep throwing eggs in my mama's car, and I think it was them. If I ever see them on the street, I know it was 15 years ago, but I still got smoke for them. Anyway. And look, everybody talking about manifesting. You better manifest these homes. Yes, manifest these homes. Some salary increases. Manifest. I told y'all that was the word I was sick of hearing, but we'll bring it back in. All right, you guys, this has been fun. I probably won't have any videos this weekend because, like I said, I'm traveling. I'm going to go see some relatives in Norfolk. Actually, it's going to be a very interesting few weeks. So I'm going to see some relatives in Norfolk this weekend. And then my mom is in Williamsburg for a few weeks. I'm going to go visit her because she's visiting some friends. Then I'm going to come back up here. Then I'm going to go back down there next week to visit my mom again. Then I'm going to come back up here. Then my cousin Brandon comes in town. So I'm going to chop it up with him. Then my good friend comes in from Florida. So I'm going to chop it up with them. And then I go to Chicago in first week of May. So if you don't see me as much, it's just because I'm not home. But we will connect. Anyway, this has been great. Stay sane. Stay safe. I appreciate you guys for supporting Poison Ivy. Yes, you are correct. The book club is on the 18th. The book that we're reading, I can go grab it really quick. Let me see. Let's see. Huh. All right. We are reading Color of Law. Can y'all see that? I'm trying to get the authors. Richard Rothstein. All right. So we're reading the first 4 chapters for the 18th, and that's going to be 9 p.m. on Zoom. If it changes, they talk about HOAs in this book. If anything changes, I'll make an announcement on the community page. But yes, anybody can join the book club. A lot of people keep asking, how do we join? All you do is click the Zoom link. It's open to anyone. Just don't come on there doing the most or acting crazy because I have time. And so, yeah, it's open to anyone. I will post the link to the book club closer to the actual date. And then, yeah, you just come on. We chat about the book. Some people really don't like to talk. They kind of just like to sit and listen. And that's fine because there's usually enough people on there that are engaging enough. And, we chop it up and talk about the book and then go off topic and talk about life and do that. And then what I'll do is we'll do another Zoom party in May, which will just be a Zoom party. It won't be the book club because we haven't done a Zoom party for a while either. Somebody said, where in Chicago? I'm actually going to be staying downtown because I'm working on some stuff, just trying to be great. Because again, I've learned to not put all of my eggs in one basket. So there's a bunch of different things I'm working on. So I'll be in Chicago in May. I'll be back in New York, I think in June for something else I'm working on. And so we'll see. Anyway, you guys have a great night. And this was fun. Thank you all for rocking with me for 2 hours and 16 minutes. I know this one was a little bit shorter than usual, which is still longer than most people's lives. So it is what it is. I will see you guys when something else crazy happens and I have something to say. All right. Good night.